Oh.
All right, good evening, everyone. We'll begin shortly here. I'll just let everybody get connected.
It's funny.
All right, Chuck, we good to go?
Good
I
to
think
go.
everybody's in. All right, it is June 23rd. We'll now convene the Conservation Commission meeting.
Recording in progress.
Before we get to the items on the agenda, I'm going to have Chuck kind of go through some of the ground rules associated with this the Zoom meeting, and then we'll get into the items. Chuck, do you want to go through
Sure. Thank you, Mike. As you may or may not know, the governor extended the provisions of his approvals to allow us to continue our Zoom meetings, and the town of Reading's Conservation Commission, his meeting is being held virtually via Zoom, audio and video participation of the commissioners, the applicants and their representatives and the public. During the meeting, myself or the chair will unmute commissioners, applicants, representatives, and members of the public as they need to during the Conservation Commission meeting. The chair or the administrator will be the only ones that are allowed to share the video. These controls are in place to ensure that tonight's meeting is safe and effective at all times. So I'd like to confirm that all members are present and the audio is working tonight. And so the chair Flynn is going to do a roll call of the members at this point.
Thanks, Chuck. And for the members of the commission, please remember this order. This is the order that we'll end up voting in. Michael Flynn, Chair. Anika.
Anika Scanlon, Vice Chair.
Martha.
Martha Moore, member.
And John.
John Sullivan, member.
Great, thank you, guys.
Please take note that this meeting is being recorded, and only the participation sharing their screen. Please be aware that other folks may be able to see you. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All the material for this meeting has been available on the Conservation Division page, and I recommend that commission members and the public follow the agenda as posted on the Town of Reading website, unless otherwise noted. However, because this meeting is being conducted remotely, I advise applicants in the particular that the commission cannot discuss or consider documents which were not previously posted. Information may be, however, presented orally. Similarly, members of the public are encouraged to provide written public comments, but should understand not all participants nor the commissioner members will be able to see anything in writing. Before we get tonight's meeting started, I'm going to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct for our business and ensure accurate meeting minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair or the administrator yields the floor and state your name before speaking. After the commission members make their remarks, and these remarks have been addressed by the applicant, the chair or the administrator will afford the public time to comment. The chair or the administrator will first ask the members of the public who wish to speak to identify themselves. Once they have compiled a list of public commentators, the chair will call on each one by name and afford them 4 minutes for any comment. The applicants may be requested to respond by the chair or the administrator. All public comments, the chair or the administrator will be once again go down the line of commissioners, inviting each one by name for further comments, questions, or motions. Please hold on until your name is called. Finally, each vote taken during the meeting tonight will be conducted by a roll call vote. For anyone speaking during tonight's meeting, please remember that mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. You can also turn off the video on your device if you prefer. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. That's all, Mike. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Chuck. As always, we've been doing this for now over a year on Zoom. It's never easy. We're running a little behind as we try to get everybody connected here, but we'll catch up with these items. So the first item on the agenda is 46 Colburn Road. This is continue the public meeting for an RDA filed by Paul and Janine Sciro under the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, MGL Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Reading Wetland Protection Bylaw, Section 7.1, for the construction of a 16 by 18 foot addition and stairs as per plan with a 4-foot frost wall foundation. Additionally, the replacement of an adjacent 14 by 18 deck using 10-inch sonotube footings. All the work is within the 100-foot buffer zone. The application plans can be viewed on the Conservation Division page under the current project. This is map 38, lot 156, file number RDA 2021-5. I will ask this, so this is a continued hearing. I will ask before we turn it over to the applicant. Chuck, I don't remember if this came through. So to give everybody just an update, we missed the last meeting because we couldn't get a quorum. So we're now a month from our last meeting. I think this came before us at the last meeting. Is that correct, Chuck? Oop, you're on mute.
Yes, it did. The Shudos presented their project, and the commission had some questions, and most importantly, one of the questions was about infiltration of roof runoff. And we were sent, Janine has sent a plan in where she has modified the architect and engineer's sketch to show an area around the addition that will accept rainwater. And she has just a brief description on the plan about that. But we should probably ask the applicant to summarize the project again, since it's been a couple of weeks, and then entertain questions as they come up, as if this was the first meeting.
Yeah, I know I saw Janine on.
Yep, she's right in the center. And I thought she.
Hey, Janine, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Hi, welcome.
Hi, let me see if I can get on the video.
Anyone else to let in while you're?
The video, the host has stopped my video, just so, I don't know if you want me to have video, but the host has to open me up.
All right. Try now.
Nope.
There's two, Chuck, just so you know.
There's two. Okay.
Try now, Janine.
Here I am.
Excellent. Good evening.
Hi, good evening, everybody.
So yeah, and to be honest, I think I was not here when you presented this project last time. So if you could, just as Chuck said, just kind of give a rundown of what it was, what were you proposing to do,
So we
and
had,
what's changed since the last meeting.
so we had a fire damaged area of our home, and it currently is I think it's 12 by 14, and it has to be replaced because of the damage. So we are trying to do just add a little 4 feet extra. It's like 16 by 18 now, and then the adjacent deck is also just going a little bit bigger as well. We're just moving it all down a little bit. We put together the plan, which you had, and we had discussed it last meeting. I think it was on May 26, 20 something. And the thing of it was the question. I had my excavator help me with this, and he's going to put in the drip trench. That was the thing that was a little concern. That was one of the questions of where we were going to put the drip trench. So that he helped me, and we were going to do the drip trench along all the areas that would be the runoff. And I still wanted to use my rain barrels, of course. So I put the rain barrels on the side of the house over there. And there was a couple of other questions about how we were going to access. So I put the access area through our driveway so we wouldn't wreck our lawn. And the soil holding area is far enough away on the other side near the fence. And it's a flat ground area. It's just soil holding area until we can get the excavator to remove all that soil after they backfill.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
I'll open up to the commission. Anika, did you have any questions?
I do, thank you. So the way I understand the figure, I just want to make sure I understand it. You're proposing a 2 foot wide by 2 foot deep, 1/2 inch washed stone drip trench lined with filter fabric in the areas shown in black.
Yes.
And so I was looking at the right side of the proposed addition, right on the other side of the 18.3 line. And I was wondering, what's the reason why the drip trench is not going to extend down that proposed addition?
So I had no problems putting the drip trench all the way down there, but after my research, the drip trench is usually not used when you have gutters, and I wanted to put gutters there so I can reuse my rain barrels.
Okay.
Because that's what I use to water my lawn, water my flowers and so forth.
Okay. Another question I had is the stairs off the back of the addition. Are those coming up from the basement?
They're gonna
Go
they're
ahead.
going to come up from the addition. That's just going to be another access out of the home, because that's just going to be like a storage area, and we're going to be storing some garden stuff there. So those are just a few steps that are going to come up from I'm assuming the foundation up into the backyard a little bit. And there's going to be crushed stone under there as well.
Okay, so the addition is like a 2-story addition, and the stairs are coming out of the bottom
Yes.
level.
But there's only one area of living space, though. That's just on the upper level. Where the foundation is all going to be concrete, but just another storage area to put lawn furniture in, or lawn items in there. So it's not really like livable space. It's just storage space. And then the only livable space will be right off of the existing home on the top level.
Okay, and bear with me, underneath that proposed addition for that concrete storage space, is that slab? That could be a concrete slab?
It's going to be it's on the plans. I know they're gonna be putting a concrete flooring there, yes.
And then on the sides of it, maybe some trellis or I'm just trying to get a mental picture of, I'm just trying to get a picture of it.
What do you mean by trellis?
Well, is it going to be finished walls or is it going to be?
The concrete walls. They're gonna be the concrete walls. It's gonna be the foundation.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
So let me do a little redirect. So the foundation seems like it's unlivable, so I'm assuming it's not an 8-foot foundation. It might be a 4-foot frost wall or something to that effect. Or maybe it's 8 feet, but the stairs from the outside go from the outside down into the underside of the proposed addition. Janine?
They're gonna be an entranceway there with a door, yes.
Right, but they start at the lawn and they drop down to a platform that's in front of a door that'll
Yes.
access the basement area.
Yes,
Okay. And then above the foundation walls is just like any typical house. You know, that's when your framing's starting.
yes,
Okay. Is that
yes.
clear?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, thanks for that. And the grading around that area, is it going to be excavated sort of? What's going to be the limit of excavation in that area?
So we're gonna resod everything around the area, obviously, because my lawn is going to get probably ruined. But currently our grading is away, kind of angles down away from our home currently. So the grading around the whole area, again, is going to be just replacing all the sod that we have that's gonna and reseed everything. Because we have a pretty flat backyard. It's pretty.
Okay, that's all I had.
A quick question, and I don't know if it's shown there. Where is the resource area? I think it said we're 50, the nearest corner is 50 feet away from the fence. Is it shown on this plan? I've got the other plan up too.
Yes. So the resource area is at the edge of the property line in this corner here.
Okay, so, and maybe
Right
this
here.
plan,
And this is like 70 feet. I think we had the other plan up at the last meeting. but
yeah,
my
the other
recollection
plan
was-
says, I've got that one up too. It says it's 49 feet to the fence from the proposed addition. So maybe even,
Well, that's, I think that from the shed to the,
Yeah.
yeah, I think there's
2
some,
to, and then it says wetlands 2 feet plus to 4 feet further beyond the fence.
Yeah, that's where the actual forest area starts. But there was an area, someone said the first tagged tree was like 30 something feet out, 32 feet out.
Can't get rid of Megan. It's
Okay. All right. I don't have any other questions. I'm just trying to make sure I had my bearings for where this was. John, do you have any questions?
Yes, I have a quick question. If we could go back to those stairs, kind of going down from the yard into the basement. So there's a flat area at the bottom of the stairs leading into that door. Is there a drain
There
from
will
there?
be.
Okay.
Yeah, there's going to be some crushed stone and some type of a a drain areas, because that's, our builder, that was our concern as well. And he says, oh no, I put there's gonna be like a little drain area into the crushed stone that's actually gonna be underneath.
Okay. I think, other than that, I think Anika covered most of what I was gonna ask, so.
And Martha, do you have anything?
I'm just looking at the silt socks around the back corner near the wetland. And I think that's probably adequate, but I'm a little worried about the soil holding area and whether maybe there should be silt socks around the pile of soil if it's going to be there any length of time. So that would be my only concern, is controlling erosion from the soil holding area.
So that area is all level ground. It's nothing that's gonna like go, like erodes upward technically, because we kind of have it kind of goes a little upward. And I don't think there'll be any, and I don't think it's gonna be there all that long either, but I'd be happy to put silt socks around that if necessary. I don't know if that's necessary or not, so.
That was my only question. And I certainly would bow to other people if they have more expertise than me on that. And I'm glad you found a way to reuse your rain barrels.
I am too.
Chuck, do you?
Sure. Let me, thank you, Mike. I do have some questions. I don't think it's appropriate to have the silt sacks back in this area here. Your contractor and you need to work on a plan to figure out what the difference is between this area that they're going to need for work to get around the site. So we're usually asked for the soil holding area to be surrounded with erosion control. And then since the recess area is back by the shed, you're going to do your erosion control like in this area here and wrap it up on both sides so it kind of cups the project. So that's
Okay.
what we would write the order of conditions to say. Back here is not going to be too helpful. We want to protect all this lawn, or the lawn that you don't need to use, to make sure that your contractor doesn't use it. So you need to have that conversation with that person and then bring that forward.
Okay.
But that's not, that's probably easier than putting it in back of the shed.
Yeah. But
To be honest, yeah.
Yeah.
I was
thinking,
I was also wondering about the stone and how you intend to keep it clean. So you're going to put the wash stone in and you're going to have the filter fabric. Are you lining the excavated area with filter fabric, dropping the stone in and then wrapping it and then covering the rest with mulch or something like that, or soil?
Yes, I believe that's what the excavator and I had that conversation.
Okay. Could you just email me that? And then I'm not sure it's going to need any maintenance, but you might want to say that you'll check it once a year to make sure that the filter fabric's not clogged. And the other thing that I wanted to ask is, someone brought this up before about the grading and regrading. If you're working this project, and do you have any intention of bringing up the existing grade? Is there any low spots? Does the rainwater collect somewhere that you're trying to kind of eliminate with some of this backfill dirt that you're pulling out of the hole?
We're going to backfill as much as we need to and probably grade away from the project area. There really isn't too many low spots, so to speak. It's a pretty flat ground. But definitely we would grade it down away from the area, like we've done our entire house like that.
Chuck, I'm going to do a little hijack here. Martha had taken a great picture.
I was just. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out how far back this grading is going to work, and then explain that when you put in the erosion control, it's also limit of work. So we would need to know where that's going, and you couldn't grade behind it. And you certainly couldn't grade within the 35 or the 25 foot within that. I think that's going to be somewhere in front of the shed. So, why don't I ask for just the email telling me about maintenance, how you're going to wrap the stone, and then, and then draw on the plan where you're going to put the erosion control, show the erosion control around the stockpile area. But give me a number between the addition and the erosion control so I know how far that is.
By number, you mean, Chuck, you mean a distance?
A distance.
How many feet?
From the house to the erosion control. And then at the office, we can find out if that's within the 35 or 25 foot area. That's all I have.
Okay.
If I can just jump in for a second, I just want to comment. What's the reason for this? I mean, this is not pointing fingers at anybody or anything like that. It's just an open question. But what's the reason for this being filed as an RDA as opposed to an NOI? What's the thought? Is it that it's in that outer between 50 and 100 feet?
Chuck, you're on mute.
That showed the distance from the house next door's delineated professionally wetland line, and it was greater than 50 feet. It was into the 70s. That was my recollection. And that's the reason why we're using an RDA.
Yeah.
Now, an RDA, if the applicant or through discussions with me chooses the RDA and the commission thinks that they need to do more than just add a few conditions and it's not appropriate, then it's always your decision to,
Right.
Bump it up into a notice of intent.
I think this is, and Anika, you tell me if you think otherwise, but I think this is consistent with a lot of the RDAs that we're seeing, mostly because of the distance. I think once we get outside of 50 feet, an addition like this, we've accepted an RDA.
To me, this one is, I agree in general. I land on this being an RDA because it's such a flat slope.
Yeah.
And because it's between 50 and 100, well beyond the 50. But it is a significant amount of earthwork. And there's a lot going on here. So to me, like that it could have gone either way, depending on other conditions.
Chuck, on an RDA, do you have, I know we have this on a notice of intent, but on an RDA, do we still have a condition indicating you go out to inspect the erosion controls before the project begins?
Yes, there's a pre-activity meeting. We usually put in, there's a couple boilerplate ones, but the commission usually puts in 3 conditions, 3 to 4, I would say. Outside of that, it's really not appropriate for an RDA.
Yeah.
And pre-activity meeting is something that I request through the building permit. I can put it on, the determination also.
Yeah, in my mind, kind of what you were saying, Anika, I don't have a whole lot of concerns as long as erosion controls are set up properly and in the appropriate spot. I think that's going to set a nice limit of work line. I think that's going to limit anything getting too close to the wetland. And as long as that's the case, I feel like this is a very easy project.
And in terms of grading, with it being so flat, it doesn't seem to me like a lot of grading is needed.
Yeah.
Unless there's so I just want to be clear, what I hear the applicant saying is we're just going to sort of, neaten the excavation area around the build out. We're not going to add a foot of fill and bring our backyard up. We're not going to,
Right.
I just want to make it clear that that's how I understand this.
Yeah, and I tried to ask the same question again. On the screen, I hope you can see it, is the neighbors.
Yeah.
That corner shows the 35-foot line, and this was professional delineation. So the 49 feet plus the 35 is where we're at with this project. So where it says rear to yard, I'll just show you. Right here is the current proponent's corner of their house. And that's
Sheds
the
in the back there.
35-foot line right here.
Okay, so the shed's in that back corner.
That's right, the shed's right here.
Okay,
So and I wrote down 49, but it's 49 plus 35. So that's all I wanted to make clear.
May I ask a question?
Sorry. Yes, go ahead.
So if my land is totally flat and the grading really isn't necessary, what am I exactly grading? Because it's really not, it's a flat piece of land. So
I think that was the question to you is we wanted to make sure that there isn't significant grading going on. We
Oh,
don't,
yeah. Yeah, I'm just gonna reseed. There's really nothing to do because it's flat.
Good. Okay. That's what we want to make sure.
Oh, okay, okay, thank you.
All right. All right. Are there any other items from the commission? Any comments from the public? You can use the raise your hand feature. We'll unmute you. Not seeing any.
I don't see any either.
All right. Do I hear a motion?
make a motion to issue a negative determination for 46 Colburn Road.
Do I hear a second?
I second.
Michael Flynn in favor.
Scanlon in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
All right. Thank you very much, Janine.
Am I approved?
So,
In this situation, you want a negative vote?
yes.
Oh, okay. I'm
Because what we're voting down is you needing to come back with a more comprehensive permit for us to review.
okay. So I do not need anything else.
Well, so Chuck's gonna,
Go ahead,
Oh,
Chuck, give your.
Sure, yeah, so I'll send out the determination on Monday.
Okay.
There is an appeal period, but you can proceed at your own risk with that. So I'll explain that more on Monday. Maybe there's an opportunity for you to give me a call, but I will send it out. It goes in certified mail. You should have that in your hand at least. And we're probably 5 days anyways, right there. And it's a 10-day appeal period. So, and I don't know when you could start your project. So if it all works out with the 10-day appeal, I wouldn't risk it.
Okay. Thank you so
Clear,
much.
Chuck, didn't you also want another piece of information from her emailed to you as well?
Oh, she has all that. Yeah, you
Okay.
were writing that down,
Yeah.
Janine, and just send those to me, as part of the approval.
Okay.
And,
Wonderful.
and for the commission, is there any special conditions outside of a pre-activity meeting? And, putting the erosion control where I stated, and just a limit on any grading that may happen.
And since it is so flat there, we should probably put a sentence in there that if any dewatering has to happen, it's going to happen up gradient of the erosion control line.
So Janine, in English, that means when your contractor pumps out of the hole, put the end of the hose that the water's coming out of up by the street, so it drains all over the yard and gets filtered out before it hits the wetland. It's natural to think, well, water, let's just bring it directly to where it's wet. We want the water on your yard first, on your lawn first, and then let it just filter into the wetland.
Yeah, don't put it in the street to go into the storm drain.
That's allowed.
I'd rather not.
I just,
Say it
but
here.
but
I'd
it
rather-
is allowed. I just didn't want you to. I mean, the DPW allows that, and that's out. I mean, I know what you're saying, but
Hold on.
again,
Hold on. Maybe that's for another time.
Yeah,
I
Yeah.
I'll
think
follow
so.
up with you for another time.
it's not me, it's the DPW. They tell them all the time. I've run into it myself.
Well, when they were dewatering on West Street, that ran into a problem down by Oak. Right, they
Oh.
were dewatering to the street, and the silt ran down the street. You know what I mean? You can't just take
I'm gonna
water
keep,
from an excavation and dump it into a storm drain.
Yeah.
That's what.
Yeah, there was more steps in that. They were dewatering and it wasn't being filtered. It was very fine sand and it really took a lot. But we can have that conversation later. I still feel like what I said was correct in how the town operates. So, and it's outside of our jurisdictional area.
okay. All right. Thank you, Janine.
All right, thank you very much.
Have a good night.
You too.
Okay. Moving along to the next item on our agenda. This is 62 Martin Road. This is to open a public hearing on the notice of intent filed by Walter and Gina Buckley under the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Reading Protection Bylaw, Section 7.1. The applicant is proposing the construction of an in-ground pool and patio within 100 feet of a BVW. The application and plans can be viewed on the Conservation Division page under the current project Assessor's Map 36, Lot 116, and this is DEP file number 270-0745. We'll turn it over to the applicant.
Jack, are the Buckleys here?
That work? Jack?
Yes, yes. The applicant, the owner is here online as well.
Which person, so I can unmute them? Buck, I don't know.
I think it's WJP. Oh, it's under Buck, but unmute Buck.
Okay.
That's correct. I'm Walter Buckley.
Mr. Buckley. All right, Jack, we'll turn it over to you. You want to explain the project?
Sure. So what the owner is looking to do, I noticed we did get a DEP file number, which you mentioned in your introduction. The wetland line had been delineated by Norse Environmental Services. The owner is looking to put in an in-ground pool, a patio, a fence surrounding the pool and patio area, a proposed shed, all within the 100-foot buffer zone. There's no trees to be cut down as part of this project, and there's only very limited site grading changes. This property is located in the Aquifer Protection District. So if you notice, I am showing a dry well out in the front yard. I tried to find the highest elevation possible to put a dry well to collect a large portion of the house roof area to meet the aquifer standards. You have to bring your total lot coverage down to 15%, which I have done. So it's basically pretty straightforward where there's no structure within the 35-foot, no structure zone. We're not proposing any work within the 25-foot, no disturbance zone. I did try to show some of the existing trees that exist within the 35 and 25-foot buffer zone. And there is an old retaining wall with a couple steps down by the BVW area that we're showing that to remain. That's been, it looks like it's been there quite a while. And we're showing a 12-inch diameter mulch sock to wrap the entire work area. Construction access for this project will be off the paved driveway off Annette Lane. And that's really about it. It's a non-backwash system. It's a cartridge system, so it's environmentally friendly like most pools are today. And you can see we're basically trying to match in with the existing site grades, and we meet all zoning requirements as far as setbacks off the house and property lines. And I'll turn it over to the commission for any questions you might have.
Jack. I would like to just start with the dry well and the aquifer protection district. So I think you're showing a hatched area. I believe that's what you're saying is the portion of the roof that you'll be able to get into the dry well.
Correct.
Is that just based on the way everything's pitched and what you can put in? Is there a reason you couldn't get the garage and as part of that as well, or is it just based on what you needed?
Yeah, it was, so if you notice on my plan, I show where you see the RL, that's where there's existing roof leaders on the house, and I went out and to see how the roof pitch would work, and let me see. And they were required, what did I do? Oh, by collecting that roof area, I bring them down to a percentage that meets the aquifer district. So by taking that roof area, I'm about 200 square feet less than the maximum coverage you can have. So that's why I picked that area. I just basically got it to a point that
Actually below that threshold.
They meet the threshold, exactly.
Okay. All right. Martha, do you have any questions?
So that dry well collecting the water from the roof basically makes up for adding the pool in the back. Is that what you're saying?
That's absolutely correct. So since we're adding the pool in the patio, no matter what surface you put down, the engineering department considers it impervious, even though sometimes people try to make a case it's a pervious patio paver or something like that. So I basically, by adding the pool, the patio, and the proposed shed, those items put us over the coverage. So then they allow you to put in drainage mitigation to basically bring that down, but you have to collect some impervious surfaces. So the easiest way to do it is typically trying to collect the roof area, because that's considered clean runoff as opposed to like the driveway or another surface.
So I guess my other question is about stockpiling soil when they dig the hole out to make the pool. Are they going to take all that soil away, or is there going to be a pile someplace that needs to be
They'll take it all away, because there's no need to use it anywhere else on site. We're basically matching into the grade. So whatever they dig out for the pool, it will be removed from the site. It won't be reused on site.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
John?
I don't think I have any questions.
Nika?
So you're also proposing fencing, 4-foot high aluminum fence.
Correct.
Okay.
And if you notice, it's gonna, Anika, we didn't show it going inside the 25-foot zone. We showed it outside the 25.
Yep. Noted. I'm getting the automatic lights just shut off. Regarding the grading, so this pool is going in. I'm just sort of thinking about the water table. So this pool is going to be how deep?
Walter, do you know how deep it's in the deep end? I know there's a shallow end.
It's 6 feet in the deep end.
So I know what you're getting at, Anika. That looks like it's into the water table, because the wetland line's around elevation 85 and the top of my pool's at 88 and a half.
Yep. I mean, this type of, these pools are made, so that water doesn't pass through them anyway. Because you don't want the pool to leak. It's not, I'm just trying to picture this sort of in real space. Is there going to be an electrical conduit to the shed or any other utilities going back there?
I don't believe so. Walter, you're just using that more for like pool storage, like floats and things like that, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and backyard lighting, like it'll be off the house or something?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is there any, so what's gonna happen to the area outside the proposed fence? Is that just gonna go back to, native? Is that
Yes.
just gonna be left?
Nothing's to be changed with the rest of the land.
But the area between the fence, the proposed fence and the BVW line, is that just, that's just gonna not be mowed, just be left to kind of return to,
No, so if you look at the retaining wall there,
yeah,
I'm gonna have a gate on the fence that you can access, and I'm gonna take care of, because it's kind of shaped. And I'd like to keep it clean, you know, if that's possible.
okay.
No,
Um,
I don't know if, am I allowed to do that? I'm not sure.
You know, it would be, you know, getting access to the back retaining wall just to enjoy the backyard, or, you know,
Right.
that makes a ton of sense. If you're not going to use, you know, if you're not going to, is that area back there existing lawn right now between the proposed fence and the retaining wall?
Yes.
Are you planning on keeping it proposed fence or sorry, proposed lawn, or are you, because it could be beneficial to the wetland if additional native plantings could find their way back there to create some additional habitat. That's the purpose of that 25-foot
Right.
buffer, is to kind of protect the resource area.
There are, and right to the left, as you're looking at the picture of the retaining wall, there's, I believe, 3 big plants. Chuck, Jack, do you know what those are called? You know, the big plants there?
I don't, but I wish I had some pictures, because I don't think it's grass back there now. If you look at is it grass back there now, Walter?
There's grass, and then the previous owners had planted some big plants. I'm not really sure what they're called. The big, not abrevieties, but I'm not sure what they're called.
Sorry, Chuck, I give you no warning. Now, this looks like it's pretty old. Is this tree still here?
No, that's not there.
This neither the one that's back here.
Well, that's sort of a peek into the backyard.
Yeah, this is 2013. So
Yeah, got it.
that was my recollection when I drove by. I don't remember seeing any of this, but you can see kind of what it looks like in this area. It slopes up to the neighbors in this area.
You know, I think I would like to see some plantings back there. If
There already are.
possible.
That's why.
Oh,
Obviously, you can't see it with this picture, but there already are plantings back there.
Where is the retaining wall in this picture?
It's right about no, to the left. Yeah, right there. So down, yeah, that's the retaining wall right there, down. Right there.
You can almost see the steps right here.
Can you go to the, hi, Jacker, can you go to the,
Sorry,
back
yeah,
to the aerial?
Sorry.
No, well, I mean, one of my questions was 2019 photo, it, you know, looks a little different from the aerial photo. And I was wondering when the trees came down, I was wondering if you worked with the Conservation Commission to take some of these trees down in the past.
Yes, I applied to take the trees down in northeast, with northeast, and I went through the town.
how far, well, I guess we could put up the plan again, but from the house to the retaining wall,
That should be on the survey.
Let me see.
Yeah,
yeah. So it looks like the edge of lawn, or where that, like the tree row is not shown on this plan. So it's hard to determine what's going on with that retaining wall that's by the BVW.
The retaining wall's 51 feet from the back of the house. And it's hard for me to remember without the photos, but you can see I did 1 foot contours, so it might be grassed out to like the 87 contour. And then it goes to a slope as you head down to the wetland. I don't think that's grass, but I don't have the pictures in front of me.
you can kind of see the 87 all of a sudden gets,
Does the 87 turn up at going north of the retaining wall? I think, north on the plan, I don't,
Yeah, the 87 almost runs into the step on the retaining wall. That there's 2 steps down in the center of the retaining wall, 2 steps built in.
so is this 87 line, I don't know if
Yep.
you can see that.
Yep, you
This-
just had it checked. You just
Yeah,
had
this
it.
87 line, does it turn up here because this house is elevated? Does it turn up in this direction?
No, it drops. On the other side of that retaining wall, we drop down to like 86 and a half. The 87 ends in that retaining wall, then the grade drops off behind that.
Yeah. I'm just trying to figure out what, what was there in 2019 and is all that needed, but it doesn't, this plan and what I was thinking doesn't really, doesn't gel. I went to the property, but I'm confused now by looking at the plan and talking about it. I thought this area here was the woods. And it is, but Mike Flynn just showed us a picture, and this was at the edge of the trees in this area here. So it was grass in front of it.
There
So
is there is grass in front of the retaining wall. Not grass, I mean dirt. It's not really kept up grass.
What's that retaining wall for? I mean, what's the steps to get where? Are you going into the? I'm just curious. Was it there when you bought the house? I guess.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, it was opened up back in the day.
There is a little like pebble trail that goes to the left off those stairs.
so
Yeah,
Chuck, what are the concerns, I guess, or Anika, in the area? I mean, Anika, you're
I think it makes sense to request some enhancement of the 25-foot BVW. I mean, that's what's coming up for me as maybe a site visit would be helpful to sort of explore that area, see for ourselves where the extent of lawn is, where that retaining wall is, see if there's any yard waste back there. And, part of this lawn is being, a very large part of this lawn is being isolated for, real fun backyard private use, and that's awesome. But outside of that, it's going to be open to the natural community, and it just makes a lot of sense to request some additional plantings within that 25-foot buffer.
Okay, I mean, I think
I don't have a problem putting plants back there if that's the issue. There are plants there. I believe the previous owners had taken the trees down and they had to plant these plants in place of those trees, which is right to the left edge of the retaining wall and to the left. I believe there's 3 of them. But I can plant more. I mean, just let me know what to plant.
I don't think we need, forest, but I think it would be beneficial to the wetlands habitat, now that it's got a little bit of, restriction from that fencing and the development. It just makes sense to enhance some of the buffer.
yeah. I think what I would suggest, Nika, is that if that's the case, then there should be a site visit to make sure we understand that option, because I'm maybe the same way as Chuck. I'm a little confused at what could be put back there. Is there actually room? I've kind of lost my sense of space of what I saw when I drove by there.
I agree.
I don't need, just offhand, I was actually thinking that retaining wall was set back and there wasn't space. That I thought the mulch sock was essentially on the limit of lawn. And it's transitioned to like a dirt vegetated cover beyond that, but maybe I misread that. So I don't know that I guess what I'm saying is I don't know that there's space to plant. I think it's relatively well vegetated, but if there's a gap that you feel like should be filled in to help kind of limit, then, and that's the only thing then I do suggest that we do that with a site visit.
And just, I guess, one follow-up. Jack, you knew I was going to ask this, but the dimensions of that concrete dry well,
Yep.
is that going to have good separation between the groundwater, the high groundwater?
I knew you would ask that.
I knew I'd ask that.
Yep, and that if the ground surface is around 88 and a half, and those dry wells right at 2 foot 8 inches deep. So we will probably get a foot of separation, which for roof runoff is okay because it's considered clean runoff. We won't get DP stormwater wants 2 feet, but that's usually for like untreated surfaces like driveways and hardscapes. So it will work. It's tight, but it will work.
And if we have more droughts, it's going to work fine.
Yeah, we'll have a 1 foot separation, and I did know we due to timing on this, where Walter's trying to get this approved and he has the pool contractor set to go, which in this time frame is good because everyone's waiting on pools, but he has someone set to go. So that's why we wanted to get this in, and I put a note that we would have to do a confirmatory test hole. And we were hoping to do that when they were digging the pool, just to confirm, soil types and where the water table is.
Where does it say that, Jack?
It's towards the bottom of the plan. Can you go up, Chuck? Yep, right, yep, nope, other way.
I saw it.
That's okay, I sent you the wrong way. So at the bottom of the plan, I said, note a soil test hole is needed to determine soil type and groundwater table data. Right below the dry well note, if you see proposed 1,000 gallon.
No,
concrete.
I know it's there.
Okay.
But you got an elevation 91 over here.
Yep.
Is that, and this is, I'm assuming 88 in this area?
Yep.
Does that drywall work on that corner and you get your 2 feet?
I only did that because, and I probably should have showed it, but their water and sewer services are coming
Okay.
in front of the house, and we had that 14-inch tree over the, with the root, so I tried to take it away, but they would, if I had to relocate the dry well, that would be a spot I could look at to gain some elevation.
That quick question, sort of related. Have you ever had to use the Frimpter method to estimate the high water table?
I have.
I'll call you later. I had a question about that. Doesn't
Okay.
pertain to this.
I've had to use it twice, but yeah, call me offline. I can talk with you about it.
Any other questions from the commission?
I just have one water table question.
Yep.
You were saying the deep end of the pool is about 6 feet and the water table is like 3 feet below ground level. So you're gonna need to do some dewatering when you're digging that deep end of the pool. And I'm thinking about the instructions to the last homeowner to where to dump the water when they're pumping it out of the hole. Have you got a plan for that?
That's a good point. We'll have to set up an area off the driveway, probably between the driveway and the shed. And we'll set up some sort of hay bale enclosure where they could pump to that area and then let the water discharge and go over the lawn like you talked about in the previous hearing. But it would be pumped into some sort of enclosure. So if there was any silt, it would be collected before it went out into the lawn area.
And that was all.
Okay. Any other items? Any items from the public? Can you use your raise your hand feature? Seeing none. If you feel like you had a comment and you didn't have a chance to get it, you can always email the Conservation Division through the Conservation Division webpage at the Reading Town website. All right, so let me try to wrap this up of where I think we're at, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong. So I think, Anika, there's it sounds like there's some concurrence of if there's some plantings that can be done within the 25-foot zone, it'd be a good idea to create a little bit better buffer since we're putting so much into that zone. The best way to do that would be through a site visit between now and the next meeting. Do we have any other items for Jack to come back and identify on the plans that we think needs to be shown or changed?
No, I would just ask Jack, maybe in the future it would be beneficial to the commission to understand where things are located. If that edge of tree, I'm going to call it the tree row, that makes sense, is located on the plan.
Yeah.
I think that would have been, and I know that it says grass in one spot, but then it doesn't say anything below the erosion control line.
Yeah, it's just tough to delineate where that transition happens.
Right. Typically, Chuck's right. I typically show like edge of grass or I show edge of tree line, and on this plan I did not. So that would have been very helpful to this conversation. It's something I could add to the plan, or if we do a site visit, we can pull off 25 feet, see if there's the opportunity to do the plantings as you discussed. And I'll add a dewatering area with a detail of the hay bales that Martha brought up.
Great. Okay.
We have to set some site visits tonight, and I'll get back to you, Jack, with that. But I would like the plan to be updated with requests. And one of them, I'm going to just add, you have 12-inch mulch sock. We're going to need a little bit more, maybe, the mulch sock we're still working on, like what's the result of that. So usually we did hay bale and silt fence. So maybe we're gonna do mulch sock and silt fence in the area where the pool's going in.
Okay,
And just to get a better barrier, because 12 inches is kind of, it's pretty low to the ground and there's a lot of earth being
They
moved.
run over it.
I could do something with the mulch sock back by a stake silt fence, but I can detail that.
We had a guy come out to another project and he had silt fence that had a orange stripe running through it, and he put the two pieces together. It looked great, and it was a barrier, and it wasn't so much an erosion barrier because the mulch was doing that. So they didn't really care about like trenching another hole, but they just put that in. It worked. For me, it worked. So
Okay.
Okay. So I'm not hearing a whole lot of other items here. So, but I think we've got to pass forward for that next meeting there.
And if we're able to pull that together, would you, Chuck, would you be able to have an order of conditions ready at the next meeting? Because I know Walter's kind of anxious.
no, we always try to do that. I think this is very typical of the times that I'm going to write it in between the meetings and
Okay,
have it ready. And then we can add whatever the commission comes up with at the meeting. I'll modify it, then send it out just after that.
okay.
All right. Sound like a plan?
Yep.
All right. Do I hear a motion?
It's the 14th, July 14th. Whoever's making the motion, it's July 14th.
Anika, I think you were just on mute. Maybe not. I don't know.
Make motion to continue notice of intent for 60 Martin Road to July 14th.
I second.
Michael Flynn in favor?
Nika Scanlon in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
All right. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good one.
Yep, you too.
Thanks, Jack.
Okay. Moving on, third item on the agenda. This is 0 Willow Street and 0 Lowell Street. This is open the public hearing on the notice of intent filed by the Town of Reading Engineering Department, Alex Rizicki, under the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Reading Wetland Protection Bylaw, Section 7.1. The proposed work is located at the Millette Soms Morgan Conservation Area and is part of a larger grant-funded effort through the MVP grant program designed to address current and future flooding within the Mystic River watershed and to improve climate change resiliency and water quality while advancing the environmental justice and open space connectivity. The applicant is proposing to install a constructed wetland system to address local flooding and improve water quality, provide open space improvements, and enhance existing resource areas through native plantings and invasive species control. The proposed activities will occur within the buffer zone to the BVW and a small BVW crossing. All work is within the 100-foot buffer zone and intermittent stream, and application and plans can be viewed on the Conservation Division page under the current project. This is Assessor's Map 26, Lot 50 and 23, DEP file number 270-0747. We're going to turn it over to the app. Go ahead, Chuck.
Sure. I just want to make sure that Catherine or Amy, do we have all your team unmuted? And just call them out by their screen name.
Yes, I'm unmuted. So, and then Amy is the only other member of our
Okay.
team. Yeah.
Okay, great.
All right. Good morning, members of the commission and the public. My name is Jennifer Relstab. I'm a senior water resources engineer with Horsley Witten Group, and I'll be presenting today on this project with my colleague Amy Ball, who will introduce herself in a few moments. I'll try to keep this short and sweet. This land, as mentioned, is the Mallet Sunson Morgan land, a portion of it, which is accessed off of Willow Street through an existing asphalt path driveway that extends into the area. It's also accessed off of Lowell Street with off the sidewalk there. The existing use is a conservation land with informal and formal pathways, permeable pathways, and a boardwalk that was, I believe, installed in 2019 or thereabouts over the existing bordering vegetated wetland. I'll note here that bordering vegetated wetland that's shown, or the wetland that's shown here, is the GIS wetland, and we'll show on the plans coming up here where the delineated wetland is. Just to give you a sense of our design approach or our goals for this project, we, as was mentioned in the intro, we are working with the Mystic River Watershed Association, the town of Reading, and other towns in the upper Mystic watershed to address some of the broader regional flooding and water quality issues in the upper Mystic and the Aberjona. And we are also looking to provide connectivity to larger open spaces. So the goals of this project include managing stormwater to improve water quality and address flooding, restoring the existing landscape with native trees and plantings, enhancing the pathways that exist on this space, and allow for folks, both residents that are adjacent to neighbors and other members of the town of Reading, to enjoy the wetlands and the trees and habitat. And also to incorporate sign amenities that will allow for more people to connect to this open space, including some parking, improved entrances, signage, and seating. The design elements that I'll talk about today are the stormwater management, the restoration opportunities, and the open space amenities. And these pictures on the right-hand side here just highlight some of the images of what we're trying to achieve at this space. So the stormwater improvements here, the existing stormwater that comes from Willow Street and Lowell Street currently runs through drainage pipes directly into this culvert that is located on Lowell Street, about 40 acres worth. And we're proposing to divert that stormwater, or a portion of that stormwater, into the Mellet Conservation Land. And that would be treated through first through a series of sediment forebays that provide pre-treatment for the area, and then through a series of wetland pools. That's here in this image, this sort of light green and blue areas. These wetland pools provide varied topography and varied vegetation to provide not only filtration of the water, but also habitat for wildlife. In this particular design, what we're doing, because of the existing resource area that is on site, to connect our vegetated wetland cells, we are piping underneath the existing bordering vegetated wetland in the area of the existing boardwalk to minimize the disturbance to that area. Stormwater, as it continues to flow through these various pools, then goes back out the Aberjona. And in this particular image, just for reference, the Aberjona is this sort of light blue line that goes through and underneath the railroad. We also have some treatment of the parking and access lane that is on Willow Street, and I'll talk a little bit about that in the next slide. Again, with the ecological restoration piece, there are several invasive species on site, and my colleague Amy will talk a little bit about that, but we're proposing several native plantings, both trees and shrubs, to enhance and improve some of the existing vegetation in the area. And we are also attempting to manage some of the invasive species on site, particularly those that are dominant, including Japanese knotweed, Phragmites, and others. Oh, and I should also mention at this time that we are proposing a very small channel that will allow very large storms, so greater than 50-year storms, to flood into this space over in conditions where it would normally sort of flood over bank. We do not believe that this particular design would inhibit any of the current flows or uses of the Aberjona with wildlife or others as it is now. The open space improvements, I'll sort of move left to right in this figure. We are improving the existing vehicular access to to the space from Willow Street by widening slightly the existing path to allow for vehicles to come into the space and pass if needed. There's a little bit of a turnaround at the bottom and 4 parking spaces here. We'd have an informal entrance and kiosks that would have both educational and wayfinding features with potential what we're calling rock cairn sort of entryway signs and elements. This path that you're seeing in sort of the light brown is a permeable pathway consisting of a soiled stone dust that would be have boardwalks crossing over areas where the water would be flowing out and into the existing wetland or the Aberjona. And there's other features here too, including overlooks and on this side, stepping stones to allow people to interact with the constructed wetland. We have proposed benches, formal benches, and then also seating walls in certain locations to allow people to have passive recreation and view birds and sort of experience the wetland. And the main path is 8 feet wide here and extends all the way from the parking area and continues to connect to both the existing path that goes over the Aberjona and into the southeastern part of the Mallet land, and then also again to connect back into Lowell Street. There also is a proposed informal path that would be 5-foot mulched path that would connect behind, and it's underneath the canopy here, and I apologize for that, but it's a 5-foot informal path that would be behind this to allow other users to have sort of a nature sort of immersive experience in terms of a walk, but that connects back up into this larger boardwalk that would allow people to cross over and enjoy the existing wetland that is there. So Amy, do you want to go ahead and talk about the resources?
Good evening. For the record, Amy Ball, I'm a senior ecologist here at Horsley Witten Group. As the plans show, a good portion of the project is occurring within the buffer zone to the BVW, including within the locally regulated 0 to 20 foot zone of natural vegetation and 0 to 35 foot structure zone. Next. Jen, you have to switch them. Thank you. Here's a visual overall of the project, both the sort of southwestern corner and the northeastern corner of the project site, showing the 100-foot buffer to the BVW in a pale yellow color, the 0 to 35 foot within orange, and then the pink is the 0 to 25 foot. Within these areas, and this is the southwest corner here, within these areas, there will be grading, removal of vegetation, notably invasive species management, including some of the more prominent trees such as black locust and maple will be removed, some common buckthorn, and then a spattering of shrubs, including multiflora rose, Japanese barberry, burning bush, a little bit of honeysuckle, and some sort of nuisance crabapple across the site. There are areas of Asiatic bittersweet, and as far as herbaceous species are concerned, the most prominent is the Japanese knotweed, as Jen mentioned, which occupies a rather large section of the southwestern corner of the property. It bleeds into the wetland area itself, and we understand that there has been considerable sweat equity in there to manage the existing population, but we believe in terms of helping to ensure that the success of the project and that it doesn't take over the constructed wetland and the purpose there, and to also restore some of the native plant habitat that we are proposing to use a small amount of herbicides to control at the very least that one species. As far as mitigation measures are, well, let's talk about trees and shrubs. Sorry, I forgot about that part. Next. There you go. We are removing a total of 56 trees that are greater than 6 inches of diameter breast height, and have proposed a suite of plantings, speaking to the commission's revegetation planting plan, replacement for tree and shrub policy. It is not an exact match of the 1-to-1 for deciduous trees and evergreen trees, and 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 of the shrubs. However, overall, we are replacing a total of 61 trees across the site as part of the plan, a total of 90 shrubs, and then thousands of perennial grasses and plugs that are all part of the stormwater design. Each of these trees or shrubs, herbaceous species, are all native and are designed to not only restore some of the native habitat, but also to restore, to be able to tolerate the varying flooding elevations within the constructed stormwater wetlands. Next.
I'm sorry, Amy, sorry,
Yes.
if you could go back to that, I apologize to interrupt, but
Go ahead.
we're saying that we're removing 56 total trees greater than the 6 inches. This table below is not the 56. This is the proposed
Oh, I'm
breakdown of
sorry,
the
yes.
replacement.
This is the replacement table. I
That's
guess
fine.
I could use a little bit of a caveat there.
No, that's okay. That's what I was thinking. Okay, thank you. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. And here's a graphic visual of the northeastern portion of the site, showing where the trees are being proposed. I will note that many of the trees that are being removed, particularly in the northeastern portion of the site, are non-native species, primarily the Norway maple and the black locust. And then this is the southwestern corner of the site. Okay. So one of the other things that we did as part of the baseline study for this project was to assess both the invasive species that are out at the site. We've done this for all of the sites that are part of this larger grant project. And also noting any habitat features, given that this is just north of a rather large transitional emergent marsh shrub swamp. There's quite a lot of wildlife habitat as you get further north with this area where the proposed project is. You have basically a plant community that is being dominated and overtaken by invasive species. So what we propose to do, in addition to managing the invasives, is also to maintain or enhance some of the wildlife habitat features, such as we found some snags at the site, and there's some down woody debris. So we will propose to stockpile this material as the project is constructed, and then replace it strategically throughout the native plantings to sort of enhance the habitat as the vegetation grows in. Next. And I think that's it.
That is it.
What I
Yep.
did not discuss and should is we have also proposed wetland replication for the small amount of disturbance that will occur within the boardwalk, which is the crossing. That last slide there was the existing boardwalk that crosses the BVW.
Yeah.
The proposal for the new boardwalk that will cover the 24-inch pipe that connects the two constructed wetland pools is just slightly north of the existing crossing. I think you can see it there, that the existing path is somewhat curved and trying to cover a straight pipe with the curved crossing didn't quite work. So with the proposal is to remove and restore the area replant the area within the existing footprint of the walkway, and then to also provide some wetland replication for the additional alterations. So the replication area is a total of about 1,500 square feet, and it's being designed to match the Massachusetts inland wetland replication guidelines. I think with that, I'm going to turn it back over to the commission for questions and discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy, Jen and Amy. I do have, I'll turn it over to the commission for some questions. I do, before we talk about like the specifics of the project, I had a couple questions just in maybe more administrative. So this project is filed by the town of Reading. I think you guys had come before us and just in general to kind of give us some feedback. Which watershed is it that's involved in the Merrimack Valley?
It's the Mystic River watershed.
Mystics, yeah, Mystics. So what's the role that each group plays in this? This would be a town project, is that correct?
That's correct.
Correct. And then just so I have an understanding, and maybe everybody else as well. So because this is part of the MVP program, the way this process would work is we don't necessarily have a contract in line, or we're ready to approve this, say this is great, project approved, go out, find a contractor and build this. There are more steps that would need to be taken
there are more steps.
before something would happen. Could you just explain that to me?
Sure, and Chuck can comment also, but we've been working with the town. So right now we're sort of actually next Wednesday is the end of the contract for the design of this project, and we have been working with the town to identify sources of funding through various pathways for various elements also, not just the entirety of the project, but possibly even phasing it to address the broader design. But I know the town is interested, but I think that we're going to be working with them at least in the next week or so to sort of identify a path forward for funding, and also identify a path forward for some of the potential constraints. You'll know that the MBTA is right at the southwestern end of this parcel, and we are meeting with them, for example, to just have a conversation with them to identify any future concerns or questions that they may have. So things like that will continue to have a conversation. So I don't know the exact timeline, but I would anticipate that it'll be at least another year or two before we're starting to talk about construction.
Okay. And with a project like this, in your experience, are there times where partial funding occurs and it could be broken out into phases, or so? And what would be the process? Would you guys come back to us with a minor plan change and say, this is what we're building today, and what we this is what we're building in the short term, and these other aspects would be pushed out? Or how would that work if this were approved and funding for only certain pieces were achieved, or other aspects were taken off the project? What would be the next steps as far as how the commission stays engaged?
I think I could probably.
I was going to say, that's a good question for Amy.
I was like, Jen, you can answer some of the logistics in the long term with the grant, but it certainly makes sense that the commission would be involved with any changes that would happen to the plans. I mean, if they're significant enough, we'd obviously return to you for an amended order of conditions. But I think that including as a provision of any approval to have us provide, or have the applicant provide, a copy of the final plans, whatever may have transitioned, and if it does become a phased project and it does take a few years, that there may be a need for an extension on any permit that might be issued.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I've been on the commission for 6 years. I haven't seen a project that is so targeted towards improvements to the natural resources of the waterways. So it's great to see, but certainly there's caveats, and it's an interesting, there's a unique approach to this that we don't usually see with the other projects. So it's good to
Right,
know
yeah.
that approach. I've got questions about the project as well, but before I ask mine, I guess I'll turn it over to some of the members of the commission. I'm sure they have some as well. So Anika, do you have any questions?
I will have questions.
We can come back.
But I don't have any right now.
Okay. John?
So I guess my question is kind of administrative also. If this gets broken up into multiple phases, do we approve the whole plan and then let it be done over multiple phases, or do we kind of approve each individual phase? Like if 1 year we have enough money to remove all the trees that are coming out, and then we're hoping the next year we have money to plant the replacement trees, do we get to approve each one?
I don't think it's, I think right now, we're trying to obviously, to the extent that we can, so it's a multi-million-dollar project. So that's the issue. I don't think the phasing would be so broken into multiple. I was thinking more that, as just a start, there is a large invasive species management that would need to be done on the site, and that might be something that could be done first, and there could be funds for that could be separated out. Similarly, there might be particular improvements for some of the access points and wayfinding that could be done in advance. But I think the majority of this would probably want to be just because it wouldn't function without
right
the sum of parts, so to speak. So I think it wouldn't be like 20 different phases. It'd probably be like 2 or 3, something like that.
Okay. And then there's another path through this property that kind of runs perpendicular to the one that's been on these maps, and I didn't see it in the presentation. Is that just because it's not
right here?
along the
That's
river?
the one that's off of Hunt Street, correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
hard to see here.
It's right there where you're pointing,
Yeah,
because it's on top of that sewer easement.
Like right in this space here.
Yeah, you can see this further.
Is that just because it's not on these maps because it's not where the work is being done?
We didn't, yeah. So as part of the survey, the original survey did not collect it, and we collected it when we were on site doing our field assessment. So it's not surveyed, it's just sort of identified, so to speak. But we have a call out there to connect to the existing path.
Yeah.
Any other items, John?
That's it for now.
Okay. Martha?
I have 2 questions. One is about the replacement trees. I believe our tree policy calls for replacing trees with trees that are something like 2.5-inch caliper trees, and your 31 shade trees are listed as being 1 to 1.5-inch caliper. So I'm wondering whether that can be adjusted to match our tree policy size.
So I did check with our landscape architects about that. They can't really tell us when it comes to an 8 to 10 foot tree, which is the 7 we have there, exactly what the caliper is. And they did say that planting slightly smaller trees may be more successful in the long run. And as I said, there isn't a really 1-to-1 or 2-to-1, 3-to-1 matchup perfectly with your tree policy. But we were trying to do the sort of the best we can with the site conditions and the goals of the project, being to ultimately manage the flooding and the stormwater that's in there. We can look at it and see what's available.
Okay. Yeah, I have no objections to the numbers that you're bringing in, because 2 shrubs equals a tree in the tree policy. So, you know, numbers, you're fine, but, and it might be that in a wooded area like this, you're better off with more small trees rather than, you know, in somebody's yard, they're putting in the 2.5-inch caliber trees. I just wanted to bring that up.
No, I appreciate that.
And then my other question, when I was reading the packet, you described the boardwalk that you were going to put in with wooden planks on the top of the boardwalk. And I know a lot of the Eagle projects that have come before us, they've been using composite planks rather than wooden planks. And they're replacing the rotten wooden planks from previous iterations of boardwalks. So can you talk about why you chose wood versus composite for the boardwalks?
Yeah, so I think in the detail it's pressure treated wood, but also you know, and I don't even think we specified what wood, but a lot of our projects we are trying to use hardwoods that would be sufficient for sort of a natural condition. I know in a couple of our other projects in other communities, we've been looking at, and this is a part of a broader goal as well, to address sort of keeping, you know, native species, or sorry, not native species, but local wood sources, but using black locust as an example. That tends to be, can be expensive, but it is a very hardy wood. And we'll have lots of it here.
I was going to say, we do have lots of it here. If we could just meet up with a miller.
Yeah, if you know a miller, that will be great. But that tends to be our preference instead of composite, just mostly for, first of all, the natural look and aesthetic of it, but also the sort of long-term climate impacts of using sort of a natural native-ish hardwood. But we'd be happy to, if there's a particular interest in changing that material, we could have that conversation as well.
Those were my only questions.
Okay, thanks, Martha. All right, I think I wanted to start, I'll start with the trees as well. I think you had some great plans showing the proposed plantings. Yeah, here we go, Chuck. So 56 trees is a lot. So I guess I'll take a step back. So I didn't go out to see the site. I know this area very well. We've been out there for other projects. But I think it would be good to get a site visit with the commission. You know, what I don't have a great feel for is where exactly all these things go in space. It would be nice to just walk the site and understand where this is exactly proposed, just so we've got a better feel for what is going where. I know you guys are running out of time on your contract, so I think we have to schedule that sooner rather than later. I think we've proposed a few days. I think we're going to be figuring that out as part of a later part of our agenda of getting some site visits scheduled. But I would like to just try to understand where this is in space and what's out there. Have the trees that are going to come down been marked at all? No.
No.
Do you have it, like, are they marked and X'd on these plans?
They're on the, yes, if you go to the existing at the site demo or ESC sheet, which I think is like the third sheet in the set, they're marked with an X. I will
pull that up if you want.
Yeah, I will note, just as a caveat, I believe on that, and I can stop sharing to Amy so you can show that, but I think those don't have the species and size on them. I think that's true. One of the issues that we ran in, there was another surveyor who conducted the survey, and I think some of what we were seeing with the survey was slightly inconsistent with what we were seeing from our habitat and tree assessment. So that's why they're not shown on there. But we can, as we walk the site, we can kind of walk through that with you.
Okay. So I think in line with what. Yeah. Okay. Very good. Yeah, and I mean, you know, this is a big area, so 56 spreads out quite a bit. You know, I think from a community standpoint and just in the neighboring houses, I am interested to understand where those are being pulled down and then the relative replacements that are going back. The trees that we put back will hopefully eventually grow into something of like similar to what it looks today. But I do just in general have concerns about taking out so many and having this feel open and having the neighborhood that's aligned on Willow Street just feel like that all of a sudden everything's clear cut back there and they're just looking back into this. I think I saw with your replanting, there was a lot on that, the line between essentially.
Jen, I'll stop sharing. You can go back.
You go back to that plan, yes.
Okay.
There was a lot of proposed plantings in that line between the homes and where the treatment is proposed to take place, which I like. I think ultimately, usually we try to push it closer to the wetlands and create that buffer, but ultimately this project is different from most of what we're seeing and is getting incorporated into the habitat. So I like the idea of having that buffer exist, I guess I'll call it west of where a lot of our resources are, to maybe enclose the space, make the community feel like they're not necessarily walking right in back of the neighborhoods and the neighborhood, the homes back there not feel like they're, we've just clear cut everything and they're opened up and looking at it. I think that's an important feel to any sort of replacement plan. And I guess that's part of my goals that I want to make sure we see when we look at what trees are being taken down. How does that look and where are the replacements relative to that?
I'll speak to 2 items and then Amy, you can feel free to talk as well. So a lot of the existing and the majority of the trees that are being taken down, which are on Amy's plan, but we won't switch back. But we have that connection from Lowell Street that's coming through, and that pipe that is going to come through and connect to that sediment forebay, and also the improvements that we're making to the existing footpath that connects to Lowell Street. The majority of the trees that are being taken down are on the interior, sort of the middle of the space here on the east side. These gray outlines, which are a little bit hard to see, but you can see them on the plan, are the existing trees that are going to remain in the canopy relative to those. So we really tried with our design to maintain the existing buffer between our project and the existing backlots of the homeowners on both sides, and where necessary. And that's why you don't see as many trees on this side as you do. I'll just quick show, like there's a ton of trees here.
Yeah, this
right?
is the one I saw that I was.
Yeah, so there's a lot of trees here, and that's because we first of all, it's not as thick. If you go out to the site, it's thinner. It's thinner here. So what we're trying to do is enhance the buffer that exists here. And going back to that other plan, there already exists a lot of buffer trees that we're leaving and trying to remain untouched, and only supplementing with additional plantings where we're disturbing areas. Okay. So it's sort of a visual fool, because we didn't outline for you the trees that exist, but there are quite a few that are to remain.
No, that's good. That's good to hear. Okay. The paved area, and the parking lot, I know you talked about widening, and so there's going to be 2 or 3 spaces proposed.
I think there's 4. Yeah, there's 4 parking spaces proposed. Okay. Yeah.
So right now, that's a tough area to get back to. It's tight for those that walk back there. As somebody that's taken their car back there and dealt with people walking, it's tough. There's a safety concern just in general, because it's so narrow, and that's where everybody walks. There's only room for one in, one out. It's pretty long. I guess I want to make sure that I like the idea of having a space to park, because just in general, this may not need maintenance, but I don't know that this is. I want to be careful about making it feel like this is an area that people can just really take cars to, because it's not convenient to get back there. I don't know how, what's the widening look like here that you talked about?
We're looking at about, I believe that the width of the parcel in this space is about 20 feet wide. So we're maxing it out, I believe, at about 16 feet wide.
Okay.
Literally like there's an existing, if you've been out there, there's sort of a stone wall on one side there. And so we're really sort of edge to edge almost. And the intent there is to try not to get into the MBT right of way. That creates a whole nother set of complications for this project. But again, we are meeting with them just to have those conversations. The intent there, of course, is it's not necessarily it's a, two cars kind of, could pass through that space, but no parking along the edge. But it would allow for a little bit of more breathing room so that, for example, and because also of sight lines, and I don't have any photos in this particular presentation, but if you are on the bottom and you're looking towards the top, it'll take a second for both the car and the person to understand that there's somebody there, right? So having that width will allow for some ability for people to move around as need be. And also this bottom area, we intentionally made it this very sort of funky shape to allow for turnarounds. Should there be, because there's only 4 spaces, should there be a reason for people to, come around, turn around and leave because there isn't enough space. I think the goal, and Chuck can talk a little bit about this if he wants to, but is to try to give some parking just to provide the town residents and other people who want to enjoy the space outside of just the neighborhood some access. But I don't think we try to limit that to not encourage large gathering, a bunch of people trying to come to the space. There was also a conversation in our previous public meeting in April too about parking on Hunt. So on the other side and sort of walking into the space from that side. But I think that there's also conflicts with that. And as you probably know, there is no parking on Willow or Lowell. Although people, I think, do park on the western side of the railroad tracks, myself included, sometimes when I go to the space. So it does present as far as access. It's very difficult unless you're a local resident.
Yeah, so I will chime in. So the fire department and the police department also wanted to have access to this area and to have a way in case they were needed. So the parking spots, it's not a whole lot, but I think Matera Cabin survived with about, 6 parking spots until 2012. And then it was upgraded to about 12 or 13 and 1 handicap spot. And that's a much bigger place. I'm not sure how much the parking spots will be used. It's probably just an area where a lot of neighbors will walk to with the access from Hunt. And there, I'm not sure there would be any need to increase the parking. I do think it's sufficient. I know one of those spots has to be handicapped, but it's to provide access to people out of town, on the other side of town, if needed. And but it's not there to create a huge gathering. So yes, and again, it was something that the safety people wanted when we had our DRT meeting.
Okay. I think that was the main gist of my questions as well. Chuck, I mean, I know you've been involved, but do you have any other items that you want to hit?
Well, I just want everyone to know that this is going to be, this project is going to connect to the head of the Abidjona Trails project, and it's going to be a complete project and complete pathway that combines both what was put in 2019 and just finished up in the last couple of months, and this new project. And I think that there's, I had a couple questions about the access road, and I guess when you come out of here, it's only going to be a right-hand turn. And this is something that the town needs to look at and the engineering department needs to look at. But the MWRA, when they, it's the MBTA, sorry, the MBTA, when we have a meeting with them tomorrow, it would be nice to get a pullover area. I don't know what we're going to have to do for that, but obviously halfway down makes a lot of sense. And because that is kind of a long run, but there are no other spots. There are no other spots for it. So if you include Hunt Street and some parking on, other streets or just neighbors coming in, this is widely, has a wide access throughout the town. It's also an area in, the southern half of town that's actually getting developed. And there's been a lot of work over the years at Millet, the town forest, Matera, and Birch Bear Meadow and the town forest. And this is really the first project that's focused on this side of town. And I do think it's going to attract a lot of people. When we had the head of the Abijona's project, there was opposition to, change. You always get a little opposition because it's just a change, and it's not something that people are in control of. But the land here is in care and custody and deeded to the Conservation Commission. And the Conservation Commission, just like a landowner, is considering through this application this improvement. I'm interested in hearing what the applicants and what the abutters say about, this project. But I know when we did the other project, there was a little bit of controversy at the start, but we got rave reviews at the end of it. And I know a lot of people like to walk the trail and take their dogs on the trail, and maybe even bike on this trail. So I guess that's kind of what I was asking, kind of an overview of the project. But I think that Mike and Anika and John and Martha kind of covered all the questions. I was happy to see that. And the invasives, I just wanted to follow up on what Martha said about the trees. And I know that the numbers seem to work, but the commission also gives, a variance, or has considered variance for invasive removal. And there's a heavy invasive removal about this project with the Japanese knotweed. And so that should be considered also. That's something that one of the neighbors has been working on for many, many years. And I think when this project's finished, we're going to have a person that's going to be highly motivated to, maybe maintain his work at the same level that he was doing in this new project here.
All right, thank you, Chuck. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. It's good to see a project down in this area. I think the head of the Abijona project, of getting that in, I've seen and heard nothing but positive impacts since it's gone in. And that's why I know how tight that is back there, because I've taken, knowing when we did that, we had comments about not parking on Hunt Street. I think I drove back and parked in that area, but I know it was skinny, and I got some looks from the neighbors, I'm sure, when driving by. So it's a tight area, so just something to keep in mind. But I think this is great. All right, are there any other items from the commission? I'll
Hi, I'm just going to jump in.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just looking at the plans and listening to this discussion, I just wanted to mention the area where the 100-foot buffer meets that road, that access road. I'm hoping to see that a little bit more clearly, and what trees are also in that area that might be coming out. So that's one thing that just sort of popped up during the discussion tonight. The second thing that came up for me was, appreciating the restricted access, even if you are expanding the width of that entrance road. One sort of thought or idea I had was, is there any opportunity next to that access road to have like a crushed stone path as well, to increase walkability from the street next to the road? to access
Let me,
property because in, you know, in this conservation area, we're increasing walking, but then we're dropping all that walking out into parking spaces. And so I just thought I'd ask that question.
yeah, I'm just gonna give you, so this is actually a presentation that we're giving to, or I've given to MBTAs just as a heads up, but this is what it looks like out there now. So that that sort of access, there's existing trees that are there. Some of them are large and not, and then of course it sort of skinnies out here, but the topography, the sort of base of the existing MBTA railroad in this space, it would be difficult to widen it much more than it already is. I know that we didn't get a ton of topo in this space. There are some reasons why you have to have a license to be in the MBTA right of way to survey their space, but so it is pretty restrictive in terms of expanding it too much more. We are trying to, I think, take as much as we can in the space that even trying. I think this tree in the background there is going to need to be removed. To your point about understanding trees to be removed, I think that's this one in the foreground here. So we do realize that there are going to have to be some improvements, but I think as you can see, like there's a pretty steep grade that occurs from the bottom slope all the way to the top of the railroad bed. And they are just, we don't know for sure, but we anticipate that the MBTA is going to require either through themselves or through the town, some sort of fencing. Where I'm not sure, but to prevent access from this site to the MBTA as well. So there'll also be a fence of some sort or a barrier of some sort likely that will also inhibit any expansion of the access drive further to the west.
I understand the tight restriction there, and the constraints that MBTA has to put on their rail lines for safety purposes, to protect the public and to protect their infrastructure. It works both ways, but I just wanted to sort of hear, I don't know if there's any more discussions that can be had. Maybe the road gets expanded as a paved surface, but maybe there's, you know, 1 foot or 2 foot of additional stone gravel off of that. I mean, I don't know, because I know where there is a pathway, if people are walking on it and the road is blocked, the soil is just going to get beaten down and people are going to make their own path anyway.
Yeah.
So just acknowledging it, and we want to encourage use of walking. So I just want to see how, if there's any room to fit some sort of connection, and I'm sure it can't be, and this might be an issue, but it may not be able to be ADA compliant, but like from the street, but can there be something there that provides a narrow path of some sort?
So as Chuck mentioned, you know, we are meeting with them tomorrow. So that will, I think, help us at least understand what the boundaries are going to be from their side, and also what the requirements would be on our side to increase or expand or change the materials even. I don't think it's not really a materials thing. It's just a property line for them. And being on their right of way requires an easement from them. It's just it's a process and cost both for the permitting process and also for the construction. And I don't, you know, fully know what those implications are. That's also why we're meeting with them tomorrow. So I'd be happy, you know, Chuck's going to be at the meeting, and he'll probably be able to share with the commission the outcome of that.
I think it's a tough spot, Anika. This has come up before. We'll do our best. Well, just had a,
Sorry.
some of the changes to the plans. One of the ones I was thinking about was some sort of lookout area. I think I mentioned in one of our meetings. So if there are some additions to the plans, is there an opportunity to change these moving forward if there was some changes in the path or some additions that we'd want to do? I guess that could also be something that the town takes on outside of what's here. It's just that, you're gonna walk this path around the outside that's kind of along the Abidjona River, and there's one point that you could really kind of take a good look, just looking towards like the depot with the train tracks on your right-hand side, and look at the Thalen Bird Sanctuary in that area. And I thought that was an interesting area just to drop a few large stones in, of course, not in the water, but just for a lookout area.
Yeah, I mean, we'd be happy. I think it would be good to Michael's point about a site walk. I think it'd be good to point those out too and have that discussion. I mean, we obviously have, for this particular, cycle, we have about a week left. So it's for us a limited time, but we'd be happy to sort of look at that on site.
It almost seems inconceivable that you would find a couple of boulders with this project also.
But no, we actually were removing
Well.
I think there's like 5 or 6 that were to come because of the grading back in this spot here. There's a few that are kind of sticking out here that we need to remove because of the grading up in this space. So we will have some boulders conveniently.
All right. I guess I'll turn it over. If there's any questions or comments from the public, we'll allow people to use the raise your hand feature, and we'll unmute. I think, oh, there we go. Megan, please just let us know your name, your address before you provide the comment, and we'll go ahead and let you.
Yeah, this is actually Will Finch. We can't
Will.
change the name on the screen. So I'm a member of the Reading Trails Committee, responsible for building a lot of the trails down in the Millette Conservation Area. One thing that hasn't come up tonight is the dumping area. And I know that's something that will have to be dealt with. Want everybody to be aware of that issue as part of the project. The other issue I wanted to bring up was the invasive species mitigation and the knotweed that's in the meadow area currently. That's also an area that's proposed for area for staging and stockpiling. And from what I understand, it's actually preferable to actually dig down and get those roots out of the soil rather than having to apply herbicides year after year, because it'll take 5 or 6 years at least of repeated herbicide applications to get rid of that knotweed, as opposed to digging it up and getting the roots out of there. And they go down 5 to 8 feet. So it's not an easy process, but other countries require it for any kind of building, like Great Britain requires that. So that's just one thing to consider for the plan. The other thing is the 8-foot wide paths that are proposed going out for the entire project, especially going out to Lowell Street, seem excessive. I was trying to figure out why you wanted them that wide, and that. And then the other issue is pressure treated wood is specified for the boardwalk but not what kind of pressure treated wood. And that's something that we've learned an awful lot about building boardwalks around town here, that it needs to be at least ground contact quality, and anything that's anywhere near the soil needs to be 0.4 or 0.6 pressure treated, which is a special order item that will last much longer. And also I concur with previous comments about using Trex as the decking material, which does require 12-foot on-center joists as opposed to the 16-inch specified. So it's, I mean, I know these are a lot of details that can be addressed in the future, but I think as a whole, the plan is a great one, and it does need to be looked at as a whole, as opposed to being phased bit by bit. You know, the planting plan that you propose is wonderful, just amazing. And also commenting on the road coming in, many times that I've driven down there with boardwalk materials, even after much of it was done, I never did encounter anyone walking on that road, or walking. I never encountered a car coming down. So I don't see that needing that extra space as an issue. I think people can walk on the roadway safely.
They started using it after you built the boardwalk, Will. You created that space.
Yeah, right. So that's, those are all my comments for now. Thank you. Anyways, this is Will Finch. I live at 51 Mill Street in Reading.
Thank you, Will. Good comments. I guess the one that I am interested in hearing is, do you have any thoughts on the invasive? Well, actually both that I thought were really good points. I'd like to hear a little bit more of the invasive and the 8-foot wide paths. I actually don't think I caught on the 8-foot wide. So
Tackle the invasives if you get the path, okay, Jen?
Yep.
So the invasives, we're all pretty familiar with. Japanese knotweed is unfortunately, and the approach that we've got is not completely fleshed out, but it is a combination of mechanical and herbicide application. A good portion of that is occupying that field. When we first did our site visits, I didn't think anything of it, except there was sort of this strange, sort of mounded, oddly textured areas in the field. And then we were back a couple of weeks later, you realize the whole field is filled with it. And that's one of the areas where we're going to be doing quite a bit of excavating for the deep pools and for the constructed wetland. So some of that excavation will occur. But I think what we found in our experience is that the combination of both mechanical removal and the herbicide application is necessary to really beat this back, so that mechanical at the long run of things can be done, you know, with some regular diligence, I suppose, catching them early.
The
path
for the path, yeah. So we actually had it a little bit wider than 8 feet. And one of the earlier concepts, we had, you know, talked with Alex and Chuck and others, and one of the uses or the uses that we were hearing that the town would like to have is the ability to have both pedestrians, and that includes walkers and strollers, but also people with bikes, so regular bikes, but also mountain bikes, be able to use the space. And so multi-use paths actually require sort of a 10-foot wide path with so 5 feet for each direction, with clearance in the shoulders. We tightened that up a little bit, acknowledging that the existing paths that are out there are, about 5 feet, and there's several informal paths that are even smaller than that. And the intent of this space is obviously first and foremost a conservation area. And so we are trying to manage that to the extent possible by limiting that. However, we do acknowledge 2 things. One is that more people will likely use the space once it is improved, as was just mentioned. Once you build it, they will come sort of situation. But the other is, I think, also, the ability to, I guess, having these larger paths will, I think, hopefully discourage people from stepping off and impacting the existing native wetland species and our proposed native species, and will keep them on the sort of main path or the 5-foot mulched path, which, like I said, is also intended for those folks, as just from our experience, who really like to sort of be immersed in the wooded areas, and we are trying to replicate that with a I guess a formal but informal mulch path, so that people can have that experience but not actually walk in. And as Amy mentioned, right now there, and actually we're not showing it, but there are, this is the BBW, there are multiple footpaths that are through that space. So trying to sort of keep people on that main path is part of the reason also for that 8-foot wide.
Thank you.
It was also brought up, Mike and Will, that one of the things that we wanted to have with this project is just enough space for someone to stop walking and kind of take in what's happening in the landscape, and to have enough room to have people walking past and biking path, and someone just to sit there and say, it's really, here's a bridge, and I can look over and I can view the pond, or I can, there's a bird over there, me and my kids can just sit there for a minute and not be in someone's way. So there was a lot of things we thought about with this path. And 10 feet DCR paths are pretty big. This is in that same area, but I think it's going to be needed, and I think it's going to look, it's going to work real well for what we're doing.
Okay. Any other comments from the public? Seeing none. If you feel like you didn't have a chance to provide public comment, you can always.
Let me bring up 2 comments. I
Sure.
don't know if so I got a call this afternoon from someone that lives on Intervale Terrace, and they were concerned that 2 things. I guess there's a concern about like vermin, like rats, as part of this project, and wanted to hear thoughts on that. And the other was on Lowell Street, near Intervale Terrace, there's a culvert that is going to actually be the access point to all the water that we're trying to use for this project. And their observation was, well, that's not an equalized culvert, and that there's some ponding under it and in front of it on the opposite side of the Millette property. So if that could be discussed just a little bit, that would be great.
Yeah, so we know that AECOM has been working on a couple of studies for the town that has been looking at the culvert sizing and implications of those culverts and sizes on the flooding in the area, upstream and downstream of our site, from the high school down past Austin Prep. We acknowledge, I think, that there needs to be in the next phase. We have reviewed their findings, and I think we would, in the final phase of design, need to have conversations with, first of all, do some additional modeling in that case to verify the findings that have been provided so far, but also understand implications of the wetland with the further HACRAS model study. And I think also to the point of culvert, I think we believe that Mass DOT actually, that's under their jurisdiction, and we would further conversations with them as well. I've actually tried to reach out to a few people in Mass DOT to understand better what's going on. So far they've claimed hands off, but I believe that they would be sort of a point of contact to also understand the structure and design and how further improvements might be able to be incorporated. And then
Does that mean Amy gets the rat question?
Yes.
I know, right? So I know that rats get a bad rap. There are native rats. I really can't speak to any problems that are out there. I've been really out there a couple of times. It's probably more a question for the Board of Health, but in bringing back a more native plant community, it's it works from the ground up and so to speak when it comes to establishing a better balanced habitat for all species, primarily starting with the insects and things that are sort of lower in the food web or lower in the food chain. But again, I can't really speak to what specific species would be out there. So I would recommend that the individual who is concerned about that maybe reach out to Board of Health.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Chuck, were there any other comments that we received?
Another gentleman that lived further down Willow Street came in and just wanted to understand how this worked, and he was concerned about flooding. And after I spent about 15 minutes with him, he was very happy to understand this project will take stormwater out of the system, and he actually couldn't be any happier. He was very complimentary.
Good. Okay. I guess at this point, I think that it's a good idea to schedule a site visit. Chuck, I think we had selected some days. Do we want to just do that? Get something on the calendar now, since Amy and Jen are here, and figure that out?
So the 3 days we chose were the 25th, 28th, and 29th. And it's just up to the Conservation Commission which ones that they're available for out of those days. And if I don't have those days right, it's just Jen or Amy, let me know.
No, I think that's correct,
Those
right,
are the
Amy?
ones, yeah.
That would be this Friday and
Or Monday or Tuesday.
Monday or Tuesday.
I'm going to let the other members of the commission decide what days work for them.
I wanted, I was going to say Carl, but when is he available to go to these? I can't remember if it's in the morning or the afternoon.
Anika, Martha, do you guys have a day that works? John?
Friday and Monday is better for me. I just wanted a sense of, are we talking, should we think like an hour, a half hour? I'm just trying to get a sense.
I don't know. It would be hard to say it would be a half hour.
I thought maybe be an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
So so if does the morning work for most people?
What day are we talking about now?
Friday, Monday, or Tuesday?
If I was going to do any, I would prefer Tuesday, but if people went and I didn't go on this one, I think that would be okay too. If Anika, it sounded like Anika only is available Monday and Friday.
John, are you available Monday?
Monday is the best day for me out of all those. So.
And in the morning, Mike, I know you're, so it would be nice to get all three. So Mike and, I keep saying Mike, but I mean John and Anika's on Monday, and Martha would be on Tuesday. So both days work for me. No one wants Friday. What's the earliest Horsley Witten can get out there?
That's your
6
call.
a.m.
Go ahead. Jen brings the coffee. for 6
I have
a.m.
a 1-year-old, so.
Oh, yeah, she's up at 4.
Does 8 o'clock work for everyone, or should be a
It's
little
fine.
later?
8 is fine.
Make it, John. Okay, let's do that. I'll connect with Carl and see if that works for him also. And Martha, if you want to go on Tuesday, I can give you a rundown of what we spoke about.
Let me get in touch with you by email,
Sure.
but you're planning to go Monday, the 28th at 8 a.m.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, I would rather not be there then.
Okay. All right, so I think we've got that scheduled. Martha, we can coordinate, Chuck can coordinate with you afterwards of what he saw and things to look at if you wanted to get out there. All right. Are there any other items on the on this? Do I hear a motion to continue?
So moved.
A second.
Michael Flynn in favor?
Mika Scanlon in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
All right. Thank you, Jen, Amy. Very good job.
Thank
Good
you.
project.
See some of you
Have a
Monday
good night.
morning. Have a good night.
All right.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Moving along. Next item on the agenda is 1310 Main Street. This is to open a public hearing on abbreviated notice of resource area delineation filed by Ocean Breeze Builders, LLC, Michael Phillips, under the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Reading Wetland Protection Bylaw, Section 7.1, for the review and verification of wetland boundaries on the property. All work is within the 100-foot BVW. The owner is seeking to have the Reading Conservation Commission review and approve the wetland delineation. The intent is to establish the wetland boundaries and then move forward with a residential subdivision with access off of Franklin Street. The application and plans can be viewed on the Conservation Division page under the current project. This is Assessor's Map 41, Lot 75 and 84, and this is DEP file number 0746. I just want to clarify because I read this from the agenda. So the purpose of this is an ANRAD, which is an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation. So the question before us is, where is the wetland boundaries and verification of the resource areas? So I know it talks about a subdivision, but there currently isn't a project proposed. With that, I'll turn it over to the applicant. Jack, is this you?
Yep.
All right, I'll turn it over to you, Jack.
Great. For the record, Jack Sullivan, Sullivan Engineering Group, and just for the public, this site is located behind the Reading Animal Clinic, and it's a 9.5 acre piece of land. Some of the wetland flags have been established when we recently filed a notice of intent for the Reading Animal Clinic, and an order of conditions was established. Since some of these flags were within 100 feet of that site, but the remaining flags on this property, there's a large A series of wetlands. There's an isolated wetland near the existing house, number 1310 Main Street.
Jack,
And
Jack, sorry, can
Yes.
you orient me a little bit? Where is the animal clinic?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
The animal clinic is, if you go to the bottom of the screen, it's off of Main Street. We show number 1312.
Got it.
That's the existing animal clinic.
Got it. All right, thank you. Sorry.
And that's actually, I should talk off of that. So behind the animal clinic on the subject property, there was an isolated wetland that was established under a third-party review when we did the Reading Animal Clinic project. That's been delineated in the associated buffers there. And then there were some wetland flags on the animal clinic property, the C series to the left of the building. that were established as part of that notice of intent as well. But all the other flags shown would need to be reviewed by the commission and approved, in the associated 25-foot, 35-foot, and 100-foot buffers are shown on this plan. And the only reason, Mr. Chairman, that I called out that it was going to be a single family subdivision in the future is because typically when I file these types of applications, most of the questions are generated around future development.
Yeah.
I do not, and so I just want to call out, it was going to be, we don't have plans yet. There will be future plans. This is our first step, but the intent is for a single family subdivision in the future. But this is our first step to get the wetland lines locked in. And then we can start designing, future plans after this step.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Jack. So, I'll let the commission ask questions if they have any. I think what I would say is that ultimately the first step to this would be similar to what we did at the animal hospital, which would be meet the, Jack, whether it's you or who did the delineation? Was it Norse?
Yep, Norse Environmental Services.
Meet someone from Norse out there, I think similar to what we had done the last time, and walk the line and just understand, are there areas, do the new points make sense? Are there areas that we see that are in question? Obviously the adjacent property had some areas where there was just some confusing areas or some isolated zones. And so I think we want to just take that same step forward of setting up a site visit with Norse when it's convenient for the commission and just walk the line, see what we can see. Does anybody on the commission have questions? Martha?
I'm wondering if the 2 isolated wetlands that are shown on here are vernal pools?
There's no certified vernal pools on this property. They look to be isolated wetlands. It's like the one behind the Reading Animal Clinic was determined to be isolated. It wasn't a vernal pool when the third party LEC did their review. They just thought it was an isolated wetland, and that's how these other ones I identified, but there's no certified vernal pools on the property.
Okay. And is there plans for the existing house to remain, or will that be removed if there's a subdivision built?
Well, that'll be a separate filing, but the idea is that house would stay.
Okay.
John or Anika?
Hi. Jack, I'm going to ask you to check again about the vernal pools because I looked it up and I think there are certified vernal pools on this property. And I think there are also potential vernal pools according to Mass GIS Data Viewer. So if you have other backup data, you can dig that up and provide it to us, but
I'll take a look. I thought there was a vernal pool shown off-site, and I thought that came up when we were doing the Reading Animal Clinic, showed a vernal pool off this property.
I think it was off the animal hospital property.
Right, I thought it was
on this one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I thought it was southerly of this property, but I'll check that, Anika. And obviously that would be a big concern if there is one. We need to show that.
And another thing that one thing I'm noticing about this property, just in the sort of immediate vicinity of the veterinary business, there's 1, 2, 3 isolated wetlands. So, I really am looking forward to walking the property and, doing and, you know, exploring a little bit further whether or not there's additional isolated wetlands to the west, because a lot of those contours, a lot of those elevation contours that sort of dip into the middle of the property between the isolated wetland and the western property line, they're kind of around the same elevation. So we need to take a good hard look at this property.
Yeah.
Agreed. Agreed. And, you know, the adjacent property was not easy to determine those isolated zones. You know, I think
No.
we could tell it was, you know, I remember going out there with Chuck one of the first times and feeling like something was going on in these isolated zones, but it's not easily identified. So
Yeah, this
it's
really,
going to take some attention.
This might require some further review.
Yep. But I think the first step would still be, at least my recommendation would, the first step would still be, let's meet out there with Norse and walk, and they can justify, you know, why they picked the locations that they did, and if there's still questions, we can kind of take it from there at the next meeting would be my suggestion. John, did you have any questions?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay. Jack, I know that makes this pretty quick, but does
I got
that
a
make
question.
sense? Okay, go ahead, Chuck. Sorry.
Sure. Hey, Jack, this is
Yeah.
Chapter 61 land. Can you tell me where, can you tell me about that process and where we are in that process? And I know, so Chapter 61 land, the town has first right of refusal on property, and that's specifically my question. Where are we with this first right of refusal?
So what I heard from the owner is the town decided not to exercise their option on this piece of property. And that's when the developer came in and they have an agreement now in place, like a purchase and sale. And we're exploring developing the property. But my understanding is the town did
So
not.
you need to check on that, because I talked to the clerk of the town. I talked to the engineering department, and I talked to the planning department. We're all on the list, and
Yep.
we're supposed to be notified. No one was notified about this. So we would like, I need you to produce that notification. And I also need you to look at how the process works, because when we talked it over at a meeting, a staff meeting, there was, you know, when does the process happen? There's a change of use, and then there's an actual sale. And you have to be notified for this change of use, which this could be if the owner retains the property. But if she's going to sell it, then, you know, the town, there's a process where the town is notified, and it certainly starts out with getting, you know, something to the clerk and something to the town manager, the planning board, the engineering conservation commission, all that. And so anyways, if that happened, then we need to know it, but it is a letter that I'm looking for.
Okay. And just so you know, when I first was asked to do this job, I said, hey guys, you're in 61A land. The owner conveyed to me what I just stated. I don't have that in writing, but what I will do after this meeting, I will follow up with the owner. Whatever that process was and notifications, I'll get all that information to you, Chuck, and the commission, and so that we're all on the same page, because I don't have that information in front of me, but it was the first question I asked when I took this on.
No,
Chuck,
I know.
Just out of curiosity, because I don't understand the process. I know this, I think this came before us a few years ago, right? Of some sort of, it came in front of us as a question of, is this, I guess there needs to be an understanding of the process, because I don't quite know, but I think, as you said, when that has to happen. And, you know, I think, Jack, to Chuck's point, if you have something in writing or some sort of documentation, I think that would be helpful.
Yep. And I don't know the ins and outs of the process. That's not my thing, but I
Yeah.
did ask the question right away because I knew the town would have rights of first refusal. And if a developer came in and put all this money at the project and then the town stepped in and bought it, you know, so I saw that as a risk for the developer. And what I stated is what I was told, but I'll get information in writing so we
Yeah,
know
and
what's going on.
specifically what I was thinking about was that there has been no, it's like if the developer has some sort of agreement, I'm not sure the clock is running. You know, that's the part I wanted you to look into. I did some research on it. I'm not going to bring it up tonight and talk about it. I guess the only other thing that I would bring to add some color to this is when the animal clinic came up, we were all contacted by a lawyer who wanted to make sure that we received the letter, and if we had any questions, just verifying that we received the packet. And so it would have been hard to miss, I guess.
Yeah. I'll get after this. I'll contact the owner tomorrow and I'll get some information.
Sure. Okay.
And then when you talk about dates for a site walk, we can coordinate that with Norris when you have some dates available.
Okay.
I'll do the same thing here. Do we want to, well, I think we've got a couple to schedule. We can, Jack, I think that there's others that we want to schedule. So I'm going to save that for a little bit later on in the meeting, but we'll have Chuck reach out to you if we figure out a date, if that's okay.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay. All right. Are there questions from the public? I see a hand raised. If you could just announce your first and last name and address when you address the commission.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry. It's as if I've never done this before.
Yeah.
I can't seem to do my video, so you're going to have to look at my poor attempt at least putting my face on that profile pic instead of my children this time. Some of you have touched on what my concerns are on this project, but I think I'm going to put it a little bit more bluntly. I do feel that there's an inappropriate bleed between two projects in front of the town. And I'm really hoping that the Conservation Commission can hold the line and make sure all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. The previous project for the veterinary clinic is slated as 1310-1312. And I brought this up last year as a concern of mine because 1310 for the paperwork to be completed properly for the Conservation Commission would be a whole different set of paperwork than what 1312 filled out for the veterinary clinic buildings. But they said that it was a typo and they were working on getting that changed, that 1310 did not belong on the veterinary clinic building. But I have in my hand site plan review decision from the Community Planning and Development Commission that still maintains it's 1310-1312. I understand that the developer and other parties involved maintain it's two different projects, but I strongly argue against that. Something else is happening. There's a lot of unknowns being discussed, and all the plans are written together in conjunction with each other. There were statements made about if the current house on 1310 is still being used as a single family dwelling. Again, I'm an abutter to 1310. I was not notified as an abutter for the previous project, but I was present for these meetings and I made my concerns known. But I was reassured 1310 was different. Now it kind of feels like, and forgive me for using this colorful expression, it might not make sense. To me it does. But it feels like a gerrymandering kind of lot numbers to get the best verdict from the Conservation Department. And the labels on the projects are the same, but the forms the developers are filling out seem to be different. The veterinary clinic is clearly attached to this, with the waterways, with the roadways, and the unknown nature of this possible new development. I feel that there's something more going on. I believe that is why Jack Sullivan seems like a very intelligent man, and he seems to be distancing himself from the purchase for the town. Something else is going on, and I have concerns. Behind my property is a certified wetland. I could not, my family could not put in a pool because there's a vernal pond there, but I don't see it anymore on the GIS website for certified vernal ponds. So I don't know how that changed. Also, there is a vernal pond certified behind another neighbor who is in a butter to this property 2 doors down from me. I'm not sure what's happening at this meeting, and I don't know the legal definition of abbreviated notice, as if this is being rushed with no plan. So these are things that are definitely concerns of mine. I understand this meeting is to decide basically where the wetland is, and there's really no problem in deciding where the wetland is. My additional concern, I'll just get it all out on the plate here. I would like to be involved in some of that research. I have a trail cam pointed at that property, and I have for 2 years now, not knowing any of this building was going to happen. So I have documentation of endangered salamander eggs. I have the wood ducks. I have all the animals going over to this property. There's many animals living there. So they depend on the wetlands. They depend on everything the way it is now. And the way that these projects are unfolding and being handled doesn't feel good to me, but I'm not familiar with the process. Disclaimer there. I'm doing my best to understand, but things aren't making sense. And I'm asking at this time if this commission could put off all decisions on a 1310 project because a 1310 project already exists. And I don't know what the legalities of that are, but I know I can't have 2 different credit card accounts with the same title and number. So I don't know why there can be 2 conservation applications with the same address and different results, and again, the delineation of wetlands. It seems like all the same project, and I would appreciate more candor and honesty regarding the development plans and intentions. These are expensive endeavors. People don't start these expensive endeavors. Number one, my suspicion with the vet clinic, they're not expanding their business, but they're expanding immensely their property with no plans. Same as this construction project. There's no plans, but they want approvals. And I am not sure that's the best for the town to be giving approvals without knowing intentions.
So I appreciate your comments. So I think there's a couple things we can talk about here. So the first, actually, just for the record, I know you're at the meetings and you're involved in the animal clinic. Maybe I missed it. Could you just give your name and address for the record?
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay.
I was so nervous. I just got started.
You did a great job.
My name is Catherine Seversky. I live at 44 Chapel Hill Drive, abutting 1310 Maine.
All right. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Catherine. So I think the first thing that I would say is I think we would certainly love engagement from anybody or anybody from the community if they have information as far as what is out there. I hope that you've heard here that an important first step of this is understanding where the resource areas are, where the wetland lines are, where the vernal pools are. And if there's information that you have that can support that, we'd be happy to see it. The particularly vernal pools, there's special regulations, beyond just what we typically see with the resource area delineation that are required associated with that. So locating them is an important part of these projects. Understanding where they are, even if they're not necessarily on this property, it is a big piece. What I will, and I tried to clarify this because this is a piece that always comes up when it's a abbreviated notice. So the intent of an ANRAD, which is what this is not to propose any project. This is just to locate where the resource areas are. There are many reasons that somebody would do that ahead of just proposing a project, but commonly what happens is they want an agreement of where the wetland is before they come in with some project and say, this is what we want to build. Because if there's a disagreement, if we go out there and we find an isolated wetland that's right in the middle of their project, they spend a whole lot of money putting together plans and designs for something that can't get built. And so a lot of times, the main reason an ANRAD will get used is to come up with an agreement of where the resource area is prior to preparing any sort of development plans. And that's an important piece to this application. This is a review of where the wetlands, the resource areas, the areas within our jurisdiction are, so that if a project comes forward to us, that there's already an agreement of what that is. The application would be approved for 3 years, so that essentially they have 3 years to say that the agreement of where those locations are. If it gets approved, that's how long it lasts for. If it expires, then it's no longer valid. The whole area would have to be reviewed again. But that is in essence the process of an ANRAD. So there's no project currently being proposed. I understand your concerns. There's usually a project, and this is why Jack indicated this, there's usually a project that will eventually be proposed. That project would have to file separately. It would come in as a notice of intent. Everybody would be notified, anybody that was notified for this would be notified in the same manner. It would be treated as a totally different application. And at that point, you would start reviewing what is being proposed to be built. The question at hand right now for this project is, where are the resource areas?
It feels like some of the project has already been outlined in the plans for 1310, 1312 with the Planning Commission. They have part of that road built. They have the foresight to include a gate. They already discussed a road would go in there. It doesn't seem as unknown when you look at the previous plans for 1310-1312.
Yeah.
So I don't have much to speak of because they're saying there is no plan, but it's phase 2 of the veterinary clinic's previously approved plan. So I'm just not sure how the town is looking at the connection. And I don't know what the normal procedure for that is. I do apologize, but some of the outlines are already there. I feel there's a lack of candor happening, and I don't know what it can be done about that.
Yeah, the other thing that I will say is, and maybe somebody else knows this answer to that, is I don't know if there's any magic to the idea of 1310 Main Street versus 13, and I apologize, I don't recall, but I do remember you actually bringing this up back then, was the 1310-1312 Main Street. I think an important piece of all of this, no matter what the number in front of the address is, I think you saw the Millet Psalms, if you were paying attention to the last one, they're both listed as 0, and that's because they just don't have a number. The important piece that is listed here is the assessor's map number and lot number, because that was ultimately going to decide the delineation of the property lines. So the assessor's map 41, lot 75 and 84 is key to understanding what's being looked at as part of this property. If we go back to the animal clinic, that would be the same would be true. Is the important piece there is not necessarily the number as much as it is the assessor's map and lot IDs. So I don't know those offhand, and I'm hoping they didn't overlap, and we can certainly look to confirm. But that is more than just a title of an address or street name. That's the important piece, is identifying the map and lot numbers, so it's clear to everybody where the property lines exist.
And Mike,
Right, and-
could I just add one thing to that?
Yeah, go ahead, Jack.
Jack Sullivan. So I don't want to get this too confused, but this should clear it up. The animal clinic was always number 1312 Main Street. There was a half-acre lot to the right of that between the animal clinic and the mobile station that was formerly owned by 1310 Main Street. The owner of 1310 Main Street sold that half-acre parcel to the owner of the Reading Animal Clinic. The town maintained an address on that half-acre parcel as 1310 Main Street. So when we submitted the plans for the Reading Animal Clinic, based on the town's address, we had 1310-1312, but it wasn't for the full 1310 parcel that we're talking about tonight. It was for that half-acre parcel between the existing clinic and the mobile station. And as Mike stated, it had a separate tax map number and parcel number, but there was we weren't trying to be deceitful or anything. That's how it was labeled by the town, and that's why we called it that way. But I want to be clear, the Reading Animal Clinic site is under totally separate ownership than the parcel we're looking at tonight that we're calling 1310 Main Street. They're two separate owners. And as the chairman stated, the purpose of tonight's hearing is really just to get the wetland lines delineated. There's no deceit. We will be looking to move forward with a definitive subdivision plan at some point in time, but the whole purpose, and I think the chairman stated it clearly, is we want to get the wetland line locked in. We want to know if there's any vernal pools, potential vernal pools, isolated wetlands, so that when we go in with our design, we're not wasting money, and we know what our buffers are, we know what our restraints are, and then we come in with the development. So I hope that spells it out. And I did just look at the Mass GIS website while we were all talking. There are 2 certified vernal pools, but both appear to be off-site. There's one at 26 Chapel Hill Drive, and there's one towards Veterans Way off of this site.
It may be off-site, Jack, but do you have an idea of the distance? The
I
buffer
don't.
for a vernal pool
I
is
just can see the symbols on the Mass GIS
Yeah.
I will
sites.
say, you
They
know,
said
sort of
they show-
like our town GIS sometimes, and this may or may not be the case in this instance, sometimes those dots are just put somewhere, but the pool itself is somewhere else.
And Anika, I did have that just happen in Melrose. They showed I had a client buy a site, they showed the vernal pool 800 feet away, and it turned out the vernal pool was on our property.
Right.
So I think when we do the site walk with Norris, we can look at some of those isolated wetlands, see if there's the possibility that they could be vernal pools.
Okay. Catherine, the one thing I would just add is that, I would encourage you, if you've got some evidence of areas or areas where you think you've seen evidence of vernal pools, Chuck, to reach out to Chuck and let him know where that's located. So when we have our site visit, we can focus in on those areas as well.
I would love to do that. I went to try to go through the certification forms, but it's tough to find fairy shrimp. And by the time I discovered that that's what I needed to find, it was past the 2-week window you can find them or something. So I can do my best and show what I've got. It's all public on Facebook too, for people to enjoy, so whatever I can do. How can I get on a list to be informed? Because I was informed about this meeting when it was scheduled for June 9th, but when the changes happened, I had to keep up on that myself. So I don't know if there are other ways that I can be put on a list and be more involved in that research. I mean, I'm well behaved. I'll just hand over my research, and they'll, as professionals, will deal with it as they do.
So the way notification generally works is you get notified for the first meeting. So I think June 9th, we didn't have a meeting because we didn't have a quorum. And so it automatically gets pushed to this meeting. We're going to likely say be continuing this so that we can schedule a site visit and get out there. And my guess is Jack's plan would be to be on the next agenda. If there's a change to that, sometimes if there's a large area, there are large changes to the plans, or in this case, new wetlands identified, and they don't have time to make those changes before the meeting, he could continue to the following meeting. One of the things that you should assume that it's on the next agenda. You can always reach out to the Conservation Division, Chuck, ahead of the meeting and say, hey, are they presenting tonight? Because sometimes we have only figured it out like a few days before that it was prepared, or no, they needed to continue one more time. So I think that's one of the best ways to stay engaged is to use, Chuck is a great resource for our residents. And so the more you can use them and reach out to them, I think the better.
Thank you.
I would just add to that you can have the agendas emailed to you. Just sign up on the town website. And if you can't find the page, you contact the clerk's office. We do that for all the public bodies.
Thank you, Chuck. All right. Are there any other questions or comments?
If we're going to schedule a site visit, I know that we have another site visit already on Monday, and then I don't know what's going on the rest of the week for most people, but it's 4th of July. I'm on vacation and I won't be back until the 12th. So when you're continuing, I think this would be a 2-week hiatus or a 2-meeting hiatus right here, if you want me involved in the site visit.
I'd recommend that we make it a time that Chuck can be engaged in the site visit, but as if most people on the commission know, this my time is limited, so I won't make that decision for you guys.
I agree. I think we should try to get out there all at the same time if possible. So Chuck, when's your next available?
And Jack, we have at least 1 or 2 new members, which would be coming in on the 1st of July. And it would be, we would, as you can see with Mike on, we don't have a quorum. You're going to have to kind of present this again anyways.
Yeah.
So this is just a, preview of all that. You can do a summary and that usually works, but maybe it would be great to get those new members and ask them when they're available also for a site visit, or at least to be at the meeting. So I know that they'll be at the 14th and the 28th. I would suggest not trying to squeeze it in before the 14th and just coming back on the 28th and then, scheduling the site visit anywhere between the 19th and the 27th.
I'd be fine with that. I'd like you to be present for the site walk anyways, Chuck, so we can work that out. Mike, are you done the end of the month? Is this your last meeting?
This is my last meeting.
Okay.
I think June 30th is they do the changeover. So new members will come on July 1st and my term expires June 30th.
Well, Chuck, when you come back from vacation, do you want to just put out some dates for a site walk with the members and Norse?
What I'll do is I'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting and we'll discuss dates for this at the meeting. It seems to work real well just to everybody look at the calendar kind of live and when they can be available or not. And then those new members will be here too.
Okay.
So I'll do that and then I'll contact you on the 15th and let you know.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
All right.
Okay.
Any other items? If not, do I hear a motion?
So we're looking for a continuance to the 28th, July 28th.
I move to continue to July 28th.
I second.
Michael Flynn in favor?
Scanlon in favor?
Arthur Moore in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
All right. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you, everyone. Good luck, Mike.
Thanks, Jack.
All right. Good
Have a
night.
good one.
Good night.
All right. Next item on the agenda, regulation fee discussion. So I think I've told you guys, this has been on our agenda for the last couple meetings. I had told you at the last meeting that I had asked to continue and hold this discussion. We were looking to have a meeting with town council. Chuck and I actually had a meeting with town council, I think it was 2 weeks ago. We reviewed the fees and language with them, and ultimately, I think we had talked about this in the past. The key over here is a review to make sure that the fees associated with our regulations are associated with cost of review, and the Mass state laws indicate they can't be a tax or a penalty. From that meeting, town council is putting together some language for revisions to the text. There's currently not a proposal to revise specific filing fees, but just a broad approach. But ultimately, this will be brought in front of the commission when the language has been prepared, and we'll have to review it. So there's more to come here. I just did want to update you guys that we did meet with town council and we had some good progress, and we'll be looking for some language that may need to go into the regulations to be amended. So
I would only add, the town council will give us draft language, the commission will
Correct.
review it and approve it.
correct. We asked them to draft it because ultimately they know the regulations better. The law is better than us. So,
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's a tough time because when I found out that town council is on, is out. So, I guess everyone's on vacation these days, but that's what happened. But it should be available for the meeting of the 14th. And if, I guess if it's not, it would be available for the next one. So I was quite happy with what we came up with. And I think they're just thinking about it and putting some language together based on what we have. So let's see what comes out of town council. I'll send it out to the commission. And once I send it out to the commission, I'll also put it on the website for anyone who wishes to see what we're discussing.
any questions? All right. Okay. Old new business. The Castellano, this is the unauthorized clear cutting, grading, and altering of the area. I had notes on this.
Yeah, the Armor
Site visit.
Development LLC.
Yes, so I think we need to schedule, so at the last meeting, I think I was not there, but there was comments to that the plantings may not have been done, though, as we had asked, or there was an area maybe close to the driveway that wasn't completed. I think ultimately this is right in the same list of trying to schedule a site visit of people to go to 1503 Main Street to review what it looks like and provide some sort of guidance to. Sorry, Chuck, I'm probably blowing this one up because I forget what we had indicated needed to be done here. I think I wasn't at the last meeting.
Yeah, I think it's not that complicated. So anyways,
Yeah.
Jim said he's available in the mornings. He did say June. I'm not so sure June. And so this is not the first time I brought it out to the commission. I wanted to say that because I don't want to, let everybody who might be listening to think that I'm waited until now to bring it up to the commission. I did ask for dates from the commission to go out to 1503 Main Street. So now it's brought up at the meeting. I don't think June works anymore based on, and believe me, you're welcome to go and schedule this while I'm off on vacation. So if not, we're back at the week of the 13th, or we can just bring it up again at our meeting on the 14th and then schedule it with the new members. Just wait and set some feedback.
I've been driving by and I haven't seen any changes since the photographs I sent a month or so ago. So he hasn't added any more trees closer to the driveway. And in terms of scheduling, what would work best for me is to, if we're going to do a site visit, do site visits either the morning of the 14th or the morning of the 15th. And that would be a little hard to schedule if we wait till our next meeting to do that. I don't know what those days look like for everybody else, but if I'm around for the Conservation Commission meeting.
Are you around the week of the 19th?
I wasn't planning to be.
Okay.
Possibly the end of that week.
And the 27th, you're not around either?
Well, while we're talking about that, I was hoping to be away in New Hampshire for the whole week that includes that, the 28th, I think, is our next meeting. So I was hoping we would still be doing that by Zoom, and then I could be part of the quorum. So that just, so anyway, I could possibly be around something like the 21st or 22nd. I forget what day of the week those are. But yeah, 22nd or 23rd. But I'd rather not be in Reading earlier that week, but I am going to be in Reading on the 14th. So if we did a site visit the morning of the 14th or the morning of the 15th, I could be there. Sorry, I'm away a lot in July.
I would prefer not to do it on a meeting day when I'm coming back on Monday. I just think the first couple of days with me coming back are going to be pretty full, and meeting days are always tough. So I would feel like the 15th would work, but no other day that week. And you said the 22nd, which would be fine also. The 23rd, we don't work on Friday. What other commission members think?
Rebecca, I'd prefer the 22nd over the 15th.
Okay.
John, do you have a preference?
They're both pretty much the same for me. I've got a couple of standing meetings on Thursdays, but I'm sure we can schedule around that.
Do you generally have availability in the morning or the afternoon, John?
I've got a standing 11 a.m.
So an 8 o'clock should be great.
Yep.
Okay. So let's just pencil it in for the 22nd, mention it at the meeting on the 14th, and see. It might not be so important that everybody here tonight shows up for a quorum issue or for a discussion issue, but John and Martha, you were part of this whole process, so it's important in that way to, So I'll write it on my notes for the meeting of the 14th.
Are we talking about doing the site visits for both of those sites, 1503 and 1310 Main Street, on the same day, or?
No.
No.
The 1310 hasn't been discussed at this moment, and we only have the 22nd penciled in.
So the 22nd is for 1503 Main Street.
Yes, okay. Penciled in.
Yeah.
And it will be discussed again at the meeting of the 14th.
Okay. So then we'd be looking for a different date for 1310. And we won't pick that until we can connect with Norse Environmental and people like that. Is that correct?
We're gonna pick the date and they're gonna probably just say yes to whatever date we pick. So it could be the 22nd. I don't know if that is so important that, if one member's not there. I think Jim's been, all of us that are continuing on have seen Jim's project. So I feel like, it's important to go, have some continuity between the members. But the next one, it's not going to be that important. And again, I could offer any follow-up site visits if we have a few people that go and can. I mean, our standard is people can go and then talk about it at the meeting. As long as a few people go and are able to discuss it at the meeting, it seems like people catch on or catch up real quick with what's going on out there.
Okay. And
Okay.
just a reminder, it was the 28th that you guys are meeting to do the Millet site visit. Is that right?
Yes.
28th?
No. Hold on a second.
June.
June 28th.
Right,
Yeah.
June 28th at 8 a.m.
July 28th, I'm away.
Okay. All right, so it might be tough in July. It might, I mean, it's just to do a site
It's
visit.
summertime.
That's all there is to it. And we'll just bring it up at the next meeting and we'll just see what happens. We're only able to schedule one.
Okay.
Right.
I've got limited time. I gotta get home by 11.
Okay. D Street, do you want to give an update? I know you have an update to D Street, Anika.
Soil was removed. We're just waiting on a restoration.
Okay.
That's all we're waiting on there. And it'd be nice to see that soon.
Yeah, we're waiting on a plan from Hawkmouth 2 and showing those bushes. And then he said he would do an eval for us next year. So yeah, again, just waiting. So that's.
Okay. I think, as you can see with this meeting, we've decided at this point to continue with remote meetings. I think until we get the new commission engaged on board, and just based on our understanding of everybody's schedule is in July, if that's the easiest way to get quorum, my suggestion is we continue the remote meetings through that. My understanding is that we have to pick one or the other. They're not letting us do some hybrid version. So
I think that's yet. So I heard that they're working on that.
Okay.
So it could be possible. I don't think it sounds great, but it seems like it's problematic for people but town council had it on their list of 3 options. It's just hybrid's not available. So we'll already sent out some legal notices for the next meeting on the 14th. So that would be virtual. And it's likely, if we're waiting to the 14th to make a decision, the 28th is going to be virtual also. So we're really talking about in August. That's when we would be making decisions for. And if it's fine with everybody to go virtual or be in person, whatever the commission wants at that point. I just think it's hybrid that's going to be a problem.
Okay. Michael Rivers. Chuck, did you ever hear from Williams Burgess?
I did. They said they sent him an estimate for the work that they would need, and the Rivers never contacted him. Mr. Rivers, who's the developer, Jack, I think his name, Jack Rivers, was part of that email chain, and so wasn't Michael. Neither one of them have replied even as of this moment about that. So I think we need to do the next step. And make sure that, we have a good kind of base to start finding these guys. So the process that I know is the enforcement order. We sent that out. And the next one, you just give me some dates. The next meeting is on the 14th. If we don't hear from them, maybe by, this is July. By the 7th, by the 14th, by the 21st, by some date, then we're going to send out a violation. We have ticketing authority, and we can fine up to $300 a day. And the only thing that the town manager requested is that if we send out a fine, that in no way do we take it back. So even if they promise to do mitigation, we can't take back the fine. It's the mitigation and whatever that costs, and the fine's going to go to Superior Court if they don't pay it. So if you have the appetite to do that, I'll send out another enforcement notice, and just choose a date that you want to hear from him by, or you'll send out a fine. And you could fine him $1, you could fine him $20, you can fine him $300, whatever you feel like doing.
Do you have to identify the fine in that this next enforcement order? So can we say he needs to be at the next meeting, or else we will fine that next meeting if he doesn't show? That's the day that we choose.
Well, we don't want him just to show. We want him to show with a consultant and a plan. It's been 6 months, like you said to me this afternoon.
Agreed.
And if he cannot do that at that meeting, we should decide on the fine. I mean, I guess that's what we could do. I do have to tie it into the regulations and all that, which I certainly will.
Yeah. I don't mean to say that showing up is just good enough, but I guess that's my take is making does there need to be a decision on the fine amount at this next enforcement order, or it can be decided based on whenever that date occurs?
It can be decided at the next meeting, and it can be sent out the next day.
Okay. Yeah, my suggestion is to tell them it needs to be at this next meeting. I mean, there's no excuse. We've got 3 weeks till the next meeting. I understand it's 4th of July, but there's been zero action.
Next meeting with plan. I understand that there is a plan in concept at Williams and Sparagus, who he said he would hire. They came out to the site, they developed a plan, and they just said, okay, now sign the contract and we'll proceed. And that's where they're stopped.
Yep.
So I'm also going to contact the DPW director, and since this is, a waterway and they're in charge of that kind of stuff, let's see what they want to, if they want to be involved in this also.
Okay.
All right. So shows with plan and,
signed contract. With a signed contract at the next meeting.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's fine. But if he had a signed contract, then Williams and Sparagus, whoever would show up and talk to us, and they would have the plan. It just seems, I don't know. I think the plan is better than a signed contract, because we need to see action, and it just seems like it's just another step before we get a plan and before we get work. So I like a plan and a consultant, and by the 14th.
Yep. Okay.
And I'll add signed contract into the new enforcement order to say, we expect you to have a signed contract with a consultant to facilitate this project, but the deliverables for the meeting are in my opinion, just a plan and someone who can speak about it, which is not Michael
A
Rivers.
professional.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, next,
DPW meetings?
11 Veterans Way.
yeah, we'll just
Oh.
skip over 11 Veterans Way. I haven't got any new plans from these guys. They're still dealing with Ryan Percival and asking him to put the fence on the easement. That's the latest I heard from Ryan. The DPW meeting, we need someone to show up for our next meeting, which is going to be, these are Tuesday meetings, so it's the 13th of July. Martha, are you available for that? I forgot your schedule already. Or one, it can be Carl or it can be someone else. You're muted.
Yeah, I figured that out. Is it by Zoom or in person?
It's Zoom.
Okay. And you're saying the next meeting is the 13th of July?
At 1 o'clock, yep.
I could do that.
Okay, great. So the next three things we haven't got yet. So Hangstrom hasn't requested his certificate of compliance, following up on the work there. And Hughes and Dement, the same thing. We got a report from Martha saying that the plants weren't in. It seems like something that should be checked out. I'll check that out when I get back. Or Commission Member Martha, you can check it out also. And let us know what's going on. I just don't want to plan something together because I'm not going to be here a lot in the next couple of weeks.
Yep.
And the correspondence, this is just something old. And so nothing's come up with that again. I don't know if 9 Zachary Lane needs an update. We did an update at the last meeting saying that the tall grasses actually happen to be Japanese knotweed or Phragmite. I'm not sure which one. Phragmite would be kind of odd in that spot.
Japanese knotweed.
Yeah. Okay.
And actually, I just realized I have a different commitment at 2 o'clock and I'll be traveling at 1 o'clock. So that's no good. I can't do the meeting on the.
So let me see if Carl can join us.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. I'm just trying to rush through this stuff.
No, that's good.
I sent out an emergency order for Walkersburg Drive. The one we did last month, they couldn't get the trapper involved until actually this Friday, so it just lapsed. So I wrote a new one. So I just need the commission to approve my writing or extending the old emergency order for that. So
I hear a motion.
sure. Yeah.
We extend the emergency order.
Emergency permit for 55 Walkersburg Drive to breach the dam.
So moved.
Second,
Michael Flynn in favor?
Nika Scanlon in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
I think Ollie and, did we get it? So next thing, the approved, so the enforcements are all still kind of like hanging out there. We're just gonna have to get back out and look at each one. I look at Perfectos every day on the way in. That's not such a bad thing. And then Chesapeake and Dean Road, these are all 1503. These are all ones that are important, so they can't be dropped. Number 11 on the list is a bill from the water and sewer from Pearl Street. I have never understood why we get a bill. We don't get a bill for Matera, we get a bill for Pearl Street. $19.71. Can I get a motion to pay that water and sewer bill?
So moved.
A second,
Michael Flynn in favor?
Nika Scanlon in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
All right. Minutes for approval?
I think we only received the 512.
Anybody have any comments? If not, can I get a motion for approval?
I move to approve the minutes for May 12th, 2021.
A second.
Michael Flynn in favor?
Nika Scanlon in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Chuck, so we've got someone in the meeting. I'm just to see if they're here for a specific reason. I don't know. I see someone listed Carol. Give you
Yes,
opportunity.
yes.
Is there a
I've been
specific?
on this whole meeting because I thought I was going to be able to say something. And then I didn't. They just shooed me off to maybe go to the health department. However, this is not just a health department issue. It's also a dangerous issue as far as the way the street has eroded into the covert. So it was much more than that. I will go to the health department, but it's not just about the rat. It's about much more than that. And it is a dangerous situation and it's been going on for years. So that was all I wanted to talk about. And
Carol,
nobody.
Carol, do you mind?
There's a second meeting, like, let her know that there's another.
Yeah.
meeting.
So Carol, do you mind just giving your name, your first
Sure,
last name for the
I'm
record?
sorry.
No,
It's
that's okay.
Carol Charest, CHAREST.
Okay.
I've been living in this house on 7 Intervale Terrace since 1983.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Carol, so because we continued it, we can't. I apologize. We can't talk about the topic any longer. But we are going to have it the discussion on this topic again in the next meeting,
which is the 14th of July.
14th.
I'll write that down. Okay. And then I can have some proper notes. I know I'm not great on all of this, but it's July 14th.
July 14th.
Okay.
So there'll be an agenda if you want. I think
That-
Chuck mentioned to the other, somebody that was trying to attend other meetings is there's a way that you can get the agenda ahead of time. That'll
Well,
have the link.
That's fine. That's fine. It was just that earlier when I did talk to Chuck, he says I had misunderstood. I had thought he'd say that I might be able, and when just the subject of the rat come up, and then just they blew it off to go to the health department. So I didn't think I was going to have another choice.
Sorry. Yeah, and feel free, and if you don't have your opportunity, we'll try to find a way to make sure you can either raise your hand or have an opportunity to speak when the project
Well, I
is
tried, but I
open.
didn't know how to do that. I tried.
So at the top of, when you see your name, Carol, and there's 3
Yeah.
dots at the top, right
Yeah, I
next to
did that.
mute.
Yeah.
When you click on that, one of them should say raise hand.
Okay, I missed that. I don't see it now either, but that's okay.
Martha, did I get that right? Martha's usually the one that.
Yeah, I did the 3 dots, but I didn't see raise.
Yeah, you won't, anyone that I've made co-host won't see it, but.
Okay.
Right. I think often the raised hand is down at the bottom if you click on the list of participants.
So it says reactions. There's a button that
Oh,
says
it's not
reaction.
well, but she could do a reaction and that would give you a.
So see how I just raised my hand? It notifies that I raised my hand under reaction. There's an item to raise your hand.
You want to try it?
Reactions, I just get something like
That-
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, thank you.
And if you clap, that'll do the same thing to notify us.
Yeah,
So-
that's
Thank
good.
you. Yeah, because my husband's getting upset. He says, Carol, just let it go. Just let it go. I said, I
No,
can't
it's
just let it
fine.
go
It's
because
fine.
can I just say one more thing? A long time ago when I brought this up, and this was before it got this bad, one of the people from the town hall, from the health department says, well, the rats have to live too. And it's like, okay, no problem. But it's not just that, and my tenant has a dog and he's been taking care of that part of it. So that's okay. But I will check with the July 14th meeting.
Okay.
And I thank you for answering this.
Thank you for your patience. Sorry you had to sit on mute that whole time.
Well, that's all right. And Chuck, I had sent you an email. It's going to the office. You can see it tomorrow.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right. So
Yep.
that's the bulk of it.
I'll make sure I make a note for myself to make sure that you get the agenda
Yeah.
on the 14th. Okay.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Now I can go to bed.
Thanks,
All right.
Carol.
Have a good night. If I
All
can
right.
figure out how to leave there.
All right. Chair.
So yeah, we need to officially,
I think this is the last one, right? New chair and vice chair.
it seems really weird. How can we, I don't think we have enough people to make this happen.
I can still vote. I'm like the The vote still counts.
That's quorum.
Did you say we are gonna have some new members next month? Have they been appointed?
We have at
by the
least
select
one,
board?
if not two.
Okay,
There were
Cool.
2 interviewees.
ah,
You know, as I've been reminded, it's according to the town rules that the chair and vice chair get voted in the last June meeting.
That's, yeah. What actually, so every June, you have to pick a new chair. That doesn't mean it can't happen in the first meeting in July. It's just that old chair doesn't, you can't continue. So we would be chair and vice chairless. So I guess that's the option. So if that's not appealing, then we would have to do our best to do that tonight. I don't think the new members would be chair or vice chair, though. It just never happens that way.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, actually, I now 6 years ago, I think my first meeting, Anika, I think I voted you to be chair, but I remember feeling like, I can't believe they're asking me to vote someone to be in a position. I have no clue who these people are yet. So it can be a lot to ask the new member to actually vote for that.
can
Okay,
I
so let's,
nominate Nika to be chair, and can we vote today, or do we not have enough voters?
no, we have enough voters. Anika has to vote for herself.
I nominate me for chair again, but this is the last time.
You say that.
Right here,
Yeah.
a second.
I second.
All those in favor? Congratulations, Anika. Very well deserved. You've been great at that.
Do we want to vote for vice chair or do you want to hold that off? I'm going to say that again because that possibly could be, it could be others. And at least we have someone steering the ship. Just throwing it out there.
I nominate Martha.
I'm willing to be vice chair.
I'll second.
Okay, so I'm chair now, right? So all those in favor?
Not yet, actually.
Didn't I just get voted?
July 1st.
Okay, well, I'm voting through anyway.
Okay, so that's it. Is that all of our?
Any other items? Anika's got to get home before 11.
Please.
Chuck,
Okay.
I do have.
No, I
Oh.
think you should close the meeting.
Make a lot. Do I hear a motion to close?
Motion to close.
Second,
All
All
in
those
favor?
in favor, please raise your hand.
All right, so everybody knows that Michael Flynn, this is his last day, and he's put in 6 tough years. And during those 6 tough years, a lot of things have happened. So I wanted to nominate Mike because he's so good. He's getting the first annual Golden Thornberry.
Golden Thornberry. You can.
The 2000.
Many others may follow, but
the
you can only
2000
be the
yes,
first.
this is
Only one
yeah.
can be the first.
We got him a little gift, and as just to acknowledge his Golden Thornberry. You want to show that to everyone, Mike?
See it.
Very nice.
aw,
Only if I had the hat to go with it, huh?
How do you like the tattoos?
I gotta see
Oh,
that
it
up
says
close.
DP.
Let me see that up
If I can
close.
get his DEP tattoo, Mr. Thornberry. There's another one that's a tattoo that says that's not a wetlands.
And check out the thing on the back. You're
gotta
leaving
fill in
the
people who did-
conservation area.
If you stop sharing the screen, then we can see his pictures better.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like,
Okay, here we go.
There we go.
Well,
And
why
then
don't you just
There you
pin
go.
him to the,
Look at
pin him
you.
to your screen?
And Chuck, I mean, I don't know if John and Martha know 100% the Thornberry history here.
The history of the Thornberries.
And it's not really a wetland.
We haven't got into this lately, but when we get notification from DEP, we always put up Nigel Thornberry because there was a guy that came in from DEP that pretty much dressed like Nigel, and
Dressed and
he made a
looked
big
and-
big impression on the commission. So ever since then, I mean, I got to tell you, whatever that little character looks like, this guy had the same exact stuff on. And the hat. Did you like that? That's
Mhm.
something you can frame
We'll
that.
go-
That's
we'll go up on the
that's
wall.
frameable quality. Look, read what it says. That's,
You deserve recognition, heartfelt appreciation. You made a difference.
you deserve it.
And
Uh,
Oh my God.
thank you very much.
I don't want. Yeah, that's
Like
for
I
you.
said, there may be many to follow, but there can only be one.
You're the first. Golden Thornberry.
Very good.
All right, Mike.
It's been good. Thank
Yep.
you, everyone. I'll
Now-
miss you guys. I'm
Yep.
sure Chuck said there'll be I'm sure next Wednesday, the 14th, I'll probably turn it on the TV at some point. But
Just to see what's going on. Yeah.
you know where to find us.
see what that's like.
And just think, you never have to ignore my texts again.
So this is when I start responding to texts.
Oh yeah. Now you stop responding. Oh, okay. So it's official now.
Yeah.
Before I was just being, I don't know.
Exactly.
All right, sounds
All right.
good. Yeah,
All right.
so Mike, it's been a
Thank you,
pleasure. Our first
Thank you,
project
everyone.
together was the Matera Cabin parking area.
You were talking about the parking, and I said I think that was the first thing I
It was the
did when I got here.
First thing Mike did with me is we worked on that and we got it. And I don't know what we didn't have like a big last project, but if you stay a little while, it would have been a Millet. But you know, you want to tell us any of your highlights? No last names.
No, I did. It all mixed
Too
in.
many. Too many. All right, man.
All right.
Fine.
All right. Thank you, guys. We'll have a good one, and maybe hopefully I don't have to come in front of you guys.
Oh boy, I'll tell you, put up another swing set. You are in front of us.
I was expecting you to see, Chuck. There's a house. There's a structure now. I was expecting you to call it out when after you dropped off the award here.
No, I'm only, because we have like a sustainability thing going on. I was just, if you had that front porch light on, that would have been it. I would have stolen the bulb. So, all right.
All right,
Well,
guys.
it's
late
late.
enough. Yeah.
Thanks, Mike.
Have a good one.
Thanks for everybody. for
Yeah.
coming to the
Thanks
meeting.
again.
All
Talk
right,
to you.
bye now.
Thanks, everyone.